Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Wednesday, July 31st, and we have a lot of training camp to get to, fellas. We were there.
There we go.
Hey, we were there, hanging out with the people. And, of course, when we show up, they show up, no pads. Tomorrow we'll be there as well. So if you're going down there, come say hi to us. We'll watch the guys with the pads on. So that's way better, way better. But today, we're going to get into a lot of our takeaways. We're going to have the doc on. It's Wednesday. So, of course, John Maakaron will be joining the show. And we're going to talk some Levi O again because Levi O got praised by Dan Campbell. In other news, maybe Matthew Betts, not so much. Not so much. So we'll talk about it all. We'll cover it here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Fellas, how we feeling tonight? How was training camp today for you guys? How was your experience? Because we haven't went in a year. This is a different team than we saw last year. Completely different.
I'll tell you what. We've gone 2 years together, back-to-back years. Last year we showed up, pumped, like we're going to see the Detroit Lions practice. Here we go. Let's see what the boys look like. And we showed up last year, and they were walkthrough. Today, we show up. We're listening to Dan Campbell on the way. Yeah, we're going to be just doing walkthroughs today. It was like back-to-back years. So luckily we get to go tomorrow and see it. Hey, I'm going to say this. So, and Klotz, you could probably vouch for me as well. Like the energy in the building, when you walk into training camp, the energy from the fans, from the workers, security, all the way to like the players. Like the players are just on one the whole time. Like it's the atmosphere. It's like a winning culture when you walk in. And I know there was no like hitting and pads, but you could just feel it. Like those guys are out there to work and no one's messing around. And when they're on the practice field, like, hey, I don't know if you guys got the same sense, but like these dudes are absolutely dialed in on everything they're doing. And I think like, I don't know. I'm pumped to see the pads tomorrow, to see kind of that energy as well and see how guys are flying around the field. But for it to be a walkthrough day and guys still to be absolutely dialed in, like, hey, we have one goal in mind. Like, I love it, boys. I'm pumped. I might run through the wall right now.
Well, I'm with you. Lukas, how was your experience today? A year ago?
I had a great time at camp. I got to meet Doc in person for the first time, so that was great. Obviously, and just the whole setup there was nice. Place was clean. Didn't have to worry about anything like that. And it was walkthroughs, but it was interesting seeing the type of formations that were going, seeing the kind of groups that they were setting out with, whether they had Fountain in the first group, DPJ, just the different looks that they were giving. Because obviously you can't take too much away from it when they're doing walkthroughs, but just being back to Booner's point, the energy in the air, you can just tell that there's a lot of positive things going on for the Lions, and it's going to continue that way. So it's great to be there really and experience the environment there.
Yeah, the environment was electric. I mean, even the turnout last year to this year, there had to be double the amount of people. And last year there was a lot of people, but this year it was. I mean, there's shuttles taking people into Allen Park to get in. I mean, the place was absolutely packed. You even saw Dan Campbell, the player stayed after, signed some autographs, and Dan Campbell comes around and just a flock. We posted on our social media. Good. Just everybody sprints to Dan Campbell or Aidan Hutchinson or Penei Sewell. It was just nice to see like just the culture, and you see these guys practice. You see how they prepare. There's a reason. I mean, this is a good football team. I mean, Scotty Montgomery, I don't know what it is with where we sit. I guess it's where the running backs work out, but we get a chance to get a front row seat to Scotty Montgomery every single year. Yeah. And it's honestly a treat to watch that man coach ball. He is the most dialed in coach, even for a guy who he's an assistant coach, a head coach. But even if he was just the running backs coach, he would still coach with the same intensity. This coaching staff, the players, I mean, we got to see the first team even do walkthroughs. I mean, you don't take a ton from it. You look at really what they're experimenting with, like Darius Fountain playing more with the ones, or Kirby and Brian Branch playing with the ones, and Iffy with the twos. Like, again, you don't live by this stuff like it's, the Bible. But it is stuff that you note. And we have our takeaways on our Twitter, which I do want to bring up. And we'll get to yours first, Boone, and you can kind of break your takeaways down. Yeah. And then we'll get to mine and kind of base our conversation around yours. But we see yours right here. So kind of go through them. These are some of Booner's takeaways from today's training camp.
Yeah, and two with the takeaways, like it's weird, like when you're out there, at least for us, it's the first time we're out there. So like obviously there'll just be beat reporters for a week out there watching and kind of getting these takeaways. But it was the first time us seeing this team, whether it was walkthrough or no pads or not, we're able to see in drills. I know we were sitting there with the doc, and I mentioned to the doc, you guys see my second point there, Darius Fountain taking a ton of reps with Amon-Ra and JMO. They were doing some individual drills and different things like that, and as well as kind of little 7-on-7 action things or 11-on-11. And the guys that are out there was Amon-Ra St. Brown for the first rep, Jamison Williams first rep, and Doris Fountain out there with the first rep, repping it out with those guys, which that was like interesting to me. And at first, Doc, and he will have him on too, and he'll talk about it. But he even said, he's like, I don't know if that's much to take into account. But then like every single time they were up, those two guys were up, Doris Fountain was with them. So it looked like whether or not he's like, they're like, hey, get with them, you're with the ones. He's still like, at least in my mind, when I played sports and you coach college and all these things, you look at guys who try and get first in reps and guys who are trying to be out there with the best that there is on the team to compete. And that's what Doris Fountain's doing right now. I think that was one of the bigger things to stand out. Even on 11-on-11s, like there were a couple times where DPJ was in there with Amon-Ra and JMO, but for the most part, every time you would go and you would look over there and they're running something or walking through something, it was Doris Fountain. And he was the one over there doing it. So, like, that's the most interesting thing to me. I obviously said, like, the first one there, the Lions have the best running back room in the NFL. I don't know if that was because Scotty Montgomery's they're right in front of us and going. But, like, break it down, fellas. Like, we're watching them do their individual drills, and they have Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds, Jamar Jefferson, and Sione Vaki. Like, you're sitting there doing
Jake Funk now, either Boone.
Jake Funk, yeah, but like you're just sitting there and you're like, what running back room in the NFL is going to compete with these top guys? Like, take their top 3 or top 4 and put them up with anyone in the NFL. And it's like, hey, these guys are in. And you have Scotty Montgomery out there coaching them up and getting them nice and sharp, ready to go for the season. Like, I was looking at that, and then we second year in a row, we're like, I mean, the Lions have the best running backs in the NFL, and then I think that's like not a question. The third thing too, and I noticed this too, and Jeff, I leaned over to you while we were at the practice, and I was like, I don't know if it's me, but like they're doing these 11-on-11 drills with defense. Guys are rotating in. James Houston, and you see it there, James Houston and Barnes rotating at the Sam spot. The defensive line was making rotations, but the only people who weren't making rotations were Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, and then the safeties, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. And those guys, whether it was walkthrough or not, those guys were back there the whole time. And you saw Ife Melifonwu. And again, this isn't like, hey, is Ife not compete for that job? Like, no, I'm sure he is. But he was just sitting over there looking at the second team do their reps during 11-on-11. So I thought that was interesting. And he was out there practicing, doing stuff. He just was not rotating in with Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. So it makes me feel like a little bit that Brian Branch has been out this whole time, fellas, and all of a sudden, just right away, he's playing safety. Like, that's his spot, and I don't think anyone's going to take it from him. And then also, obviously, guys, the Levi O, Josh Pascal, and Davenport rotating. Hutch was in there the whole time today, and it was literally just Levi starting it off, Josh Pascal and Davenport rotating in with it. I think that's interesting. And we're going to talk. I actually don't want to get into that one that much because our next couple segments have to do with Levi O and then the defensive line. So I'll hold off on that. But a lot of takeaways, even on a day that's kind of walkthroughs. I'm excited for tomorrow to get to kind of actually see some of this in action and see more rotations.
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me, I'll say, and the thing that I took the most out of was Levi, because it's not just the play. It's not what the coaches are seeing, but it's what they're talking about. Like Dan Campbell, what he said today about Levi Onwuzurike. I know we kind of like, it's been a storyline. We've been talking about it, but he said it's clear he's one of the best. He's just earned it, and this is with pads on, right? Pads have came on. They've played, and Levi, we still have to see it in a game come the regular season. I understand that, but Levi getting a chance to run with the ones, like to me, it's experimenting. But I do think it's realistic because with the loss of John Kaminsky, that tweener build, Levi Onwuzurike is somebody that, hey, he's going to be able to fill some of that the roles that they need him to fill now with the loss of the commish. And I think he's capable of doing that, Klotzy. But we'll get into it a little more. But I do feel that way.
Yeah, just kind of going with that. I was a guy that thought Levi Onwuzurike was probably going to get cut heading into camp. And obviously that is not going to happen. I think to your point with John Kaminsky now being out for what looks like at least the regular season, if Levi Onwuzurike, he's not going to be starting in the starting lineup. I don't think anybody should expect that. I mean, that's DJ Reader and Ali McNeil, but that third man up to what Booner's been preaching more than anybody, and Jeff, you've been agreeing. I mean, it can very well easily be Levi O. Now, I'm really interested to see what Mekhi Wingo has to do. I'm really interested to see what Broderick Martin has to do because Broderick Martin was rotating in with the ones as well. But it looks like if there's a sure thing out of all those guys right now, it's Levi Onwuzurike. Now, I'm still one of those guys. I'm still going to stand by it. I got to see it first. But I think that's how we all are. But the optimism that you guys have been preaching about Levi has proven to be true so far.
Hey, Levi O.
Okay, so keep going because I know.
Actually, let's save it. Let me get into my takeaways. Let's get right.
Yeah, let's save the Levi stuff for Jeff.
This will be a good combo. But here's my takeaways. Some of the things I kind of put out on Twitter after training camp, and the thing me and Booner both and Booner brought this up to me, but we both agreed that I do think it's somewhat significant that you had Branch and Kirby running with the ones. And I even put in here, take lightly, plenty of time left. So not saying, if he count him out, he's not with the ones ever and will never be. No, it's not what I'm saying. But the fact that Branch is back and him and Kirby are running together, it's nice to see. I don't know if we're supposed to say this, so I'll just say it like this. They're going to utilize their depth at DB and put as many DBs out on the field as they can. Without saying formations, and I don't know how that all works, but just know that they will find a way to get as many DBs out there as possible because we saw it today with them utilizing who they had with the ones. So at least we kind of got, people talk about formations in our chat. They're going to run maybe even that 4-2-5 that we talked about, just because you can have Jack and Anzo and have 5 DBs out there. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I even wrote that on here, but Scotty Montgomery can absolutely coach his ass off. That was something that I didn't learn, but something that stuck out to me. And then Darius Fountain, I also put him in this as well, Boone, because he was being tested more and more. And besides what we've seen, just him getting open, like without pads, I get it when you don't want to take, things too serious, but he was getting open. And in Lucas, we had this talk the other day. Without pads, I think it's fair to look at wide receiver versus a corner without pads. I know some corners, you're more physical. I get that. When you have pads on, it's different. But even for a guy like Fountain, when you're watching him, dude's getting open. It clearly, and they have a pretty good secondary too. So something I'm going to be very, very interested in seeing as we get to preseason is what does Darius Fountain bring to the table? And I even wrote in here, it's clear there's a battle between Fountain, Green, and DPJ because we saw all of them out there with the ones kind of playing and competing. And we saw DPJ catch a TD in the red zone. Now, he hasn't been talked about a lot, but those 3 will be competing. And then we also saw when the guys were returning punts, J-Mo was among really 4 guys that were out there returning punts. I think they'll have a DPJ out there.
So you're telling me he's returning punts?
Well, I saw that in shout out to, I think it's the Detroit Times account. I think that's the account. I got to make sure I get this right here. Yeah,
he's been doing a great job.
He does. He really does. But he posted that I said that it might be more of a possibility. Listen, if I'm giving you my opinion, I don't want him returning punts, but he was out there returning punts. So again, take that for what you will. I've already said my opinion on it. I don't want J-Mo to do it, but I would not be surprised if the Lions utilize him at some point this season. I think Khalif is fine. Yeah, Maurice Alexander, I think he's more than qualified. And they have other guys as well that are going to be able to do that. But I did write that on here as well. So those are some of my takeaways today. I do want to get into the Levi stuff because it is relevant, and it's really one of the more important storylines of training camp right now is what Levi Onwuzurike has been doing. So let's play this clip of Dan Campbell, the quote he had today, because if this doesn't fire you up, I don't know what will. So let's hear Dan Campbell on Mr. Levi Onwuzurike here.
We kind of mentioned him. He's earned it. It's clear that he's one of the best. It's just clear, and he plays with violence. He's stout. He's fundamentally better than he's ever been, and he's shown that he has some versatility between the big end and base and 3 technique. He plays some big end and sub, and nickel. And he's just earned it. And so he continues to go. He feels good. And so he's in a good place.
He's earned it. It's really as clear as that. He's earned it. And
can you just pull that up real quick? I want to make sure I heard one word correct, like real quick.
Okay.
This is just. I'm sorry. This is with the.
You're being
the
a diva, but I'll pull it up.
I apologize. No, this is with the Klotzy thing. I just want to make sure here, just so we can respond here correctly.
Okay.
You know, we kind of mentioned him.
I'll tell you when to stop it.
I mean, it's clear that he's one of the best. I mean, it's just clear, and he plays with violence. He's stout. He's fundamentally better than he's ever been, and he's shown that he has some versatility between the big end and base.
All right, tell me what.
All right, you're good.
Big end and stuff.
I love you, boys. I'm sorry.
You just wanted to hear one more time?
I just wanted to make sure that this is the message.
Let it simmer a little bit. I get.
Yeah, I just want the message to be relayed very well.
He's clearly one of the best. Fundamentally, not the same player, Klotzy. Hey.
I mean, I'm happy to hear it, guys. Like I said,
I know we keep throwing it.
I'm wrong on this. I'm wrong, but the Levi O, if he can come in and be a strong part of the second rotation, then I'm all for it. I hope that's what he can do. I hope he can get at least 2-3 sacks if he's on the roster this year, which I think he's capable of, and he's definitely going to make the roster. But I just don't. Now we're starting to get the Levi O breakout season, Levi O huge year. Like that's where I'm still not going to be able to go to that route just because there is a rotation of guys that's going to be here. He's going to be at the top of it. He keeps playing the way he is. And I think he's going to be a solid piece for this team. But the best, I don't think he's one of the best on the Detroit or one of the best interior linemen in the NFC North, but he's probably one of the best rotational pieces that's going to be for this team. So I can't really say, oh, Dan's wrong there. Like there's nothing really for me to say other than I'm wrong on what I've been saying so far.
Just say Dan's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No,
yeah. So this is my thing. This is my thing with the whole situation because like this has all been leading up like since minicamp all the way to last week, all the way to today when we hear that Dan say this, and it's like we went over this yesterday, and we have to go through this again. It's like these guys, not just Dan Campbell, but like AG, Hutch. Like yeah, you're supposed to lift your players up and you know be positive about your teammates. But like these guys are legit. Like they're like, hey, like this Levi thing is not a joke. Like you could say he hasn't really shown it at all the last 2 years. He was a very, very high respected draft pick, a second round draft pick. A lot of teams looked at him very highly, and he came in with the back injury, one of probably the worst injuries you can have in football. Your back, and finally for 2 years he was trying to play with the pain, and finally the pain is completely gone. He's completely healed. He is back to where he was before this injury when he got drafted, and he's back to a full Levi Onwuzurike, the guy you drafted him to be. It's not like he's turning 32 years old and he's been going through injuries. No, he is going into year 3, which you see a lot of guys take a jump in year 3. And like the thing that just gets me all the time, like I get it, Klotzy, like he could be a great rotational piece through training camp. Like for Dan Campbell, the guy who has helped build this roster and has put guys in the starting lineup that he sees with his eyes every day in training camp, practice, and all that. And he goes, like, you're like the comment is, I have to see it before I can believe it. Dan Campbell has seen this guy for weeks now, for a month ago, for a couple weeks in OTAs. At some point, it's like, okay, no, he's going to be a piece on this team. Like, he will be a piece. Now, if he's rotating in with the Marcus Davenport and kind of making a rotation or whatever it is, because right now he's kind of playing on the edge there with Broderick, with Aleem and Hutch. If that's where they're going to have him and they're going to kind of rotate him through different positions and use him, like he said, he's versatile. That's probably one of the more valuable pieces on a D-line if you're versatile like that. For at least for us, like, you know that AG and those guys like those tweeners that can do both. So I just think like if Dan Campbell's coming out and saying he's one of the best right now on the defensive line and on this team right now, I don't see where it's like, yeah, you can question it. And we could, like, there's people out there on Twitter that have commented and questioned it and like, oh yeah, we have to see. I think the hype has now grown, and I don't even know if it's hype now. I think it's just kind of a fact. Like Levi O, when I say he's back, it's not I'm saying he's back and he's going to get 10 sacks. I'm saying this man is absolutely back from injury, completely healed up, and he's going to hopefully be that second round pick that you brought him in here to be in his third year. And it seems like that's what's happening right now is he's finally coming into his own. And now that we're starting to hear it, people get scared to kind of go out on a limb and be like, he's going to do it.
But what is it?
Be a part of this defense and make an impact.
I think that's like the consensus now, though. Like we just like that's what we just went over. Like as far as like I just said, he could be a 2 to 3 sack guy.
All right, this Levi O conversation with Klotz.
I'm trying to understand.
I just want to see it. I just want to see it. Like, what is it? He's going to be a rotational piece with Marcus Davenport and those guys there. Like, he's going to play a handful of snaps. Like, we've already said on the other side of Aidan Hutchinson, you need guys to be able to rotate in. That's going to now be like we see it in practice. We've seen it the last 3 days. That is going to be Levi O in Marcus Davenport. That's just what it is now. And a James Houston out there too, and like different. That is it. And like, if you want to say, well, we need to see it, like, you're just being a smart ass about it because you don't want to, like, the Levi O stuff. Like, that's all it is. And it's the people in the chat, some of the people in the chat too. It's like people just don't want to believe it when a guy ends up taking a jump. And it's like, hey, this guy's actually taking a jump here. And in training camp, he's showing out. He did it in OTAs. He did it in like, it's not that crazy.
Okay.
I really here, let me bridge the gap here. Okay,
am I wrong? It's just like crazy to think like, hey, Levi O actually is going to be good. He's going to be good for this defense.
So define I'll ask you, Booner. What is a successful year for Levi Onwuzurike? I'll ask you that, and then I'll ask Klotz that. What would be a successful year to where you look at the end of the year and you're like, you know what? I'm cool with what he did. What does that look like?
I would say he could go out there and get maybe 3.5 to 5 sacks. Let's say 4 to 6 sacks, and go out there and be an actual piece to this defensive line that can go out and it is setting the edge or filling gaps and being very good in the run game and like just being consistently reliable, like just being reliable out there, like in all 17 games and going out there and being able to do that. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say because you have we had Romeo and Julian Okwara last year who were the most inconsistent players of all time, and you're going in there saying we need to upgrade from that. He could go Levi can go in there and do that. He can stop the run. He can help that out.
In Klotz, I'll say this for me, a successful year for me for Levi. He's just out there. Like just
go give me 4.
There. Yeah, no, 4 sacks, maybe a couple sacks. I would even take
4.
2 to 3 sacks. He's just a contributor. That's about what Kamish would have gave you. I'm cool with that. Like and that's for me. That's how I'm looking at Levi. What about you? What about you, Lucas? What would be
what I said when I was saying before. I said 2 to 3 sacks. I think that's what he can get, and I'd be absolutely happy with that. I think anything above that, I think would be absolutely surprising to me. And it's not a knock. That's just I'd be like, what the hell? He got 3.5 sacks, 4 sacks. I just at the defensive tackle position with the rotation they have. I think he's going to be a guy that can get to the passer, but consistently throughout the season, no. But if he can go in there, to Booner's point, make the proper run fits and help out the guys around him, and that's what he's doing. I don't think that's insane. Like, that's why I'm like,
see, we're closer. We're really closer than we were arguing about. Like, we're really not that. I think the only reason we should be arguing is if one of us feels like he's up here and the other one's down here. I don't really think we're that far off. I think you're just saying, Lucas, you want to see it in the game, and me and Booner are more like, hey, Dan Campbell says it. I'm on board. I don't think it's egregious to be like, we haven't seen it yet. Let's wait and see. And then Lucas just told you what he expects. It's really what I expect. So we and him are kind of in the same camp. You expect what, 4 to 6 is kind of your number?
I'll say 4. Like, hey, if he goes out there and gets 4, like that's I think that's like, hey, now that's a rotational piece that you can go out there. Like, if you look at other defensive lines around the NFL, there are guys who, you have a 12 sack guy, you have a 6 sack guy, an 8 sack guy or something, and then you have a couple guys down there with 3 or 4. Like, we've compared like different rooms. I compared the Cleveland Browns defensive line group there, and they have a handful of guys that are out there getting 4 or 5 sacks all together, and it's adding up. But we talked about, Jeff, the defensive line, you need to produce sacks to go win football games. That was a stat that we talked about months ago. And like, that's going to have to happen. Like Pascal, like you have Hutch out there. You're going to have TJ Reader. You're going to have Leem. You're going to have different guys out there making plays and putting the quarterback in positions to where you're able to kind of make a play. Like, he's going to do it. And then in the run game, like, you had a top 5 run defense last year. He's got to step up and kind of be big in that as well.
Well, let's talk about life after the commish. If Levi maybe doesn't fill that role, the commish. And I love him, sound guy. But they should have been thinking about adding to this defensive line anyway. And you see the talk of Matthew Judon. I actually have something that I just saw on someone's story that used to play for the Lions. And I'll get to that in a couple of minutes here, so stick around. But right now, that could relate to him maybe being picked up. Older, he's a veteran, beloved Lion. but we'll get to it. But here's Brad Holmes' bold shot to him, man. He said Patriots outside linebacker Matthew Judon is not practicing as he seeks a new contract. On Monday, he got into a verbal argument with head coach and GM. He has not reported to the facility since. The Lions have the second most cap space in the league and the best odds to land Judon at plus 350. So Matthew Judon, bring him home. Bring him home. It's that simple.
And I think the thing that's most laughable when people push back about Matthew Judon to Detroit is when they say that he's not a scheme fit, but then you look at what they're trying to do with James Houston, and you look at the film on Matthew Judon, and you see that he's running stride for stride down the field with tight ends and running backs. So he's a guy that is exactly what you're looking for on the opposite side of Hutch, and you have the financial cap space to do so. So I think if there's an option where Matthew Judon is on the trade block, and you're the Detroit Lions, and you see that, okay, the defensive end room, it's all right outside of Aidan Hutchinson. But you can go and improve him because, honestly, if a team's going to get him, it's probably going to be in the NFC. I don't think the Patriots are going to want to trade him anywhere in the AFC.
I agree.
I know they're trying to rebuild, but that's always what you want to do most is get him out of the conference. So if another NFC contender could potentially get him, especially in the division, you look at the Bears, they're always going to be trying to make moves. The Packers are going to be trying to make moves. I think if the Lions can land Matthew Judon, that secures at least a top 10 defense at the floor for the Detroit Lions.
I agree with that. Hear me out, Boone. If I'm advising Matthew Judon, this is what I say to Matthew. I say, okay, you want a deal, understandably so. You're a great player, and I think you should get that deal. Now let's look at our options. There's been some stuff coming out. You know, people are seeing you and the Patriots kind of fighting for a deal. Is there a team that has a lot of cap that will be willing to extend you? Yeah, potentially. Here's how I can boost your stock a little bit. You can go to a team, prove that you can be not that he isn't, but solidify he can be a winning player. Come to the Lions, contribute on a team that wants to win a Super Bowl. Even if it is a rental, I know that's not an ideal situation, but you're closer to home. You're in your home state. You're playing for a championship contender. You'll be on TV in big games. More eyeballs on you. Therefore, more people will get to see Judon ball out. Therefore, when he hits free agency, let's say after winning a Super Bowl, potentially, he gets a ring and he gets to get paid somewhere. And the Lions don't have to re-sign him. I think it's a win-win for both sides. I've said this 1,000 times. It makes so much sense. Unless Judon's like, hey, I am not willing to be traded anywhere unless there is a deal already lined up. Well, then unfortunately, the Lions should not be in that. I don't want to extend Judon, bring him here, give him a giant bag. They have other players they have to extend. But if you can work out a situation where he is a rental, and he can contribute, because, boy, he would help this defense, and he gets paid. To me, it's a win-win for everybody. I get there's an injury risk, but at least you'd rather play for a team that's playing for something rather than going to a bad team. Maybe he values getting paid. I understand that. He's later in his career, and I would understand that. The Lions would not be involved in that trade. But just to get him as a rental, if he's open to that, Boone, sign me up.
Yeah, that's the thing where I don't know, like the whole Matthew Judon situation. I'm with you. If you can get him as a rental and say, hey, we're trying to go into Super Bowl this year, and you are looking for another edge rusher to pair with Aidan Hutchinson, that's the obvious choice. Like, give up what you need to go chase after him and get him. I just don't know if that's like the situation with Judon, and I guess no one really does besides the Patriots and Matthew Judon. To where it's like the reason he is sitting out is because he does want a deal and he wants a bigger contract. So like if the Lions and if he was to sit out with the Patriots and say, hey, I'm requesting a trade, I want out. If he was to kind of get a trade, I think you would have to pay him. That's where it gets a little interesting to me because like where Brad has never really shown bringing in guys like, do you remember the Danielle Hunter thing last trade deadline where they could have kind of brought in Danielle Hunter as a rental and they didn't really win that sweepstakes. And there's been other times as well. I feel like that Brad probably could have traded for guys and said, hey, we know where we're at. And number two, like we know the contracts we want to give out. And Lee McNeil is going to be due. Hutch is going to be due in a year or so. Like guys are going to start getting due to contracts. So I don't know I don't know. Like, would I want Matthew Judon on the Detroit Lions this year? 100%. If you're saying no, if people are out there saying no, and it's any reason besides maybe paying him in a contract, then like, you're just dead wrong. Like you would want Matthew Judon on this football team going on a Super Bowl run. Like he'll make a massive, massive impact on this team. Like Klotz said, that's a top 5 defense instantly. Like if you add Matthew Judon in there with DJ Reader and Lee McNeil and Hutch, and then that secondary you have and those linebackers, that defense is extremely tough. That's one of the best in the league. So I don't know. I think it just comes down to the contract. Like how much is he asking for? Can you get him on, the terms of it, 2 years? Like, I don't know.
But I don't want an extension. I have no interest in that.
But that's the thing is I think there's a 0% chance of getting Matthew Judon on a rental. Like, I don't.
Over.
That's where I don't see, unless I don't think Matthew Judon wants to play without having an extension because he just got hurt, coming off an injury. I don't think he wants to risk it.
Yeah, and if that's the case, Boone, I'm out. I don't want him. I don't want to pay him. And that's all due respect to Judon. I don't want it because I don't think he'll take it 2 years. So that's even off the table. He would want a long-term extension. I know a player that would probably take a 1-year flyer. You guys see this? Ndamukong Suh is back in Detroit.
Oh.
All right. Hey,
what is back?
He's back in Detroit. He said, if you know, you know. Hashtag what up, Doe.
Rotunda Drive.
He's driving. Hey, Ndamukong Suh, 37 years old. I know he's not the same. He wouldn't be the same as when he was here with the Lions. But man, just to get some depth, let's say, hey, DJ Reader's out. Hey, DJ Reader's out of game. Maybe you like Levi in there over Ndamukong Suh, but just to bring him in the building. What do you guys make of it? What do you guys make of it? Is he cooked? Are we over it? I'm generally just asking. I'm not even going
to. Without flaming me, can I just be honest here? This would give me and I know it's because it's a little shock value just because he's a Detroit legend, but it's like the Bruce Irvin signing. Like great player, but he was a great player in 5 to 10 years ago. And
he made Derek Carr piss blood. All right,
for depth, that's fine. But honestly, I would honestly rather see what Levi O has and then go get a guy off the edge room and keep Levi O inside. And if you need to put him outside to a 5-tech, go ahead and do it. But try to develop him on the inside instead of going out and getting a Ndamukong Suh. If he's dirt cheap, then take it. But I just don't think he's a guy that really would make any type of impact outside of what he's doing behind the scenes in the locker room.
That's where when you put that up, Jeff, and I'm sorry, when you put that up, the first thing I think of is, hey, he's just coming in to set the tone a little bit. Like he's just coming in. Maybe he's going to talk to the defensive line. He's going to talk to the boys and be like, hey, this is what it's about. And he's going to come in and be an absolute dog. Like, hey, this is what it is to be an absolute dog in the NFL. That's where my mind goes. It doesn't go to he's coming in to play. Did he even play on a team last year? He didn't play all year. He's been off for a year, and at that age,
the last time he played in the NFL was not last season, but the season prior, and he had a sack in 8 games
with the Eagles, right?
Yeah, he had a sack with it in 8 games. He was 35. He's 37 now.
He's just coming. We might see him at practice tomorrow. That's probably all it is.
In all seriousness, and this sounds this sounds wild now that I'm saying it. Thinking it now, I'm going to say it. I think Levi O would give you more than Suh right now.
Oh,
yeah. And and it sounds wild, but at 37, give me Levi Onwuzurike. I mean, I'm sorry. So I brought that up. It was teasing a little bit. I don't want Ndamukong Suh at 37, but it is interesting. Unless he has property here. I don't know why he would be back in Detroit. If he's coming to talk to the team, let's say off chance, I am all for that. Hey, come hype the fellas up. You got Aidan Hutchinson saying this defensive line looks great, which we'll get to in a second. But I'm out on Levi. I'm out on Ndamukong Suh.
But don't get me going again.
No. I'm out on Ndamukong Suh. I'm with you guys. You guys are 100% correct with that. But I don't think they need him.
Maybe tomorrow we'll shake his hand at camp.
If he's there, cool. I would love to meet him, but I don't think he's playing. But Aidan Hutchinson did compliment this defensive line. Shout out to Brad Galley for this video. I'm going to give him credit. It's Aidan complimenting the defensive line, kind of talking about what they have and why it's different. So let's play this clip here, Aidan, what he had to say.
The new additions have meant and maybe how you guys have gotten after it a little bit.
Yeah, I feel this year already feels different, with the new D-line coach, a couple new additions in the room. I think this is the best I've seen us perform in camp up to this point it's my third camp now here. So it's really fun to watch. We're really getting after it. We're coming off the ball. We're striking blocks. It's it's been a lot of fun this camp. Honestly, just feels like we got revitalized energy, and it's amazing.
And
Jeez. Hutch looks a little different too. Like, I'm not trying to be like weird or anything. Like, he looks like he is in the best shape of his life. Like, absolutely like Nick Bosa type shape. And it's like, this guy's gonna be scary.
Boy wants to win Defensive Player of the Year, Boone.
Talk to me, Klotzy.
He does.
Yeah.
This
I'm with
defense
Steve. I'm with Steve. He looks a lot leaner.
He does. And it looks like he said he's got a chef. And he said, like in this interview, he mentioned, they asked him, like, what did you do differently this? And obviously last year, I think he had a chef and he worked on his eating and all these different things. But then this year, he was like, it takes a couple years in the NFL to work on like getting a running routine, a lifting routine, a food routine, like all these different routines, like year by year, you start to build it up. And he was like, I finally feel like that. He was like, I feel like my full routine as a whole is finally all together. And like everything, I wake up, I know what I'm doing. I know everything I'm doing, and it's consistent. So like when you get into that mode of your career, and I think that's when guys start to get really, really good. Like you see a lot of guys take those jumps year 2, year 3. I think it's because of that. And I think Hutch is like, that's why this year I've been so big on him winning Defensive Player of the Year. It's because like we thought he was going to take that jump last year, the 15 sacks, and he was just short. And it was like, all right, he's right there. You saw towards the down the stretch, like he's making that jump. And now he had the offseason to work on it, and he knows like, hey, this is what it's like to take that jump, and he's able to do it. I'm interested to see, and I don't think people realize too. Last thing, this defensive line has to go up against the number 1 offensive line in the NFL every day. Like these guys battle it out. Like Hutch goes up against Penei Sewell, the best offensive lineman in the entire NFL every day. So when you start hearing these conversations that the defensive line's actually doing, like they're starting to dominate a little bit and they're giving the offensive line a little bit problems, you do have to remember that's the number 1 offensive line in the entire NFL. So if they're doing that to these guys, think about what they're going to be able to do against like the Dallas Cowboys or the Seahawks or these different offensive lines who are, maybe top 10, top 15. Like they're going to be able to go out there and dominate some of these guys, and they're starting to learn a little bit.
I know that's true, Boone, because like for example, when they're on the road in Houston and Hutch has got to line up across from Laramie Tunsil, I'm sure like in any other defensive end world outside of probably Nick Bosa, that's probably just like the toughest week you're gonna have. But Penei Sewell going up against him, I mean it's going to turn the Aidan Hutchinson into the even better player and help him develop along with the other guys that they go up against. But I think this is the year where you really see Aidan Hutchinson. I think you already saw it in the playoffs, but where he just figures out the NFL on and off the field. You said off the field, Booner, and talking about how he's getting into shape. I 100% agree with you. And I think early on a little bit, Aidan Hutchinson was still trying to piece things together last year. But I think this year for him, I think he's just going to just pick up right where he left off in the postseason and go right along with the Booner path and be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
Imagine a team that has a terrible offensive line. Like even though talent-wise, you might have good pieces on your defensive line and they'll still be good players. But in terms of development, the point you just made, Booner, is so spot on. Nothing benefits anyone more than going up against this offensive line. It's especially Aidan going up against Penei one-on-one. They do it all the time, and they've been doing it since, Aidan got into the league, and he was a rookie. He's been going up against Penei Sewell. Then you get out there week 1, and you're facing, the Rams offensive tackle, and you're like,
ETN's not gonna like that.
Hey, ETN, you got to agree with that. Penei Sewell to whoever's week 1, it's a downgrade by default. So
right.
Even good tackles, like it's still technically a downgrade. Penei's better than every tackle in the league, in our opinion. It's just facts. If you want to argue Trent, cool. But besides the 49ers, Aidan gets that work with Penei. So he big year coming for Aidan. I think you were cooking there, Boone, earlier a couple weeks ago with that Defensive Player of the Year take. I don't think he'll win it, but man, I think
appreciate that.
He might, but I think, man, he can go out there and get 15 sacks. He'll be in the conversation.
I do, and I could be wrong with this, but Hutch isn't always lined up against Penei, correct? Going on 11-11.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Not all the time.
Well, you got to think like some of these guys who are out there at Davenport, Levi, in practice, depending on the defense that's getting ran or where Hutch is at, you're getting some of these guys going up against Penei Sewell. Like these guys, like you're going up against the best every day, dude. Like these guys are. That's why I think it's so beneficial and with the Terrell Williams things. And I don't know why we haven't mentioned this yet, but Hutch came out today and brought up a point as well. He was like Coach T, which is Terrell Williams, and he brought up how good of a coach he is and what he's doing with this defensive line. Dan Campbell, I'm pretty sure, again, today brought up Terrell Williams. And like this guy, he keeps getting brought up about how he's building up this defensive line crew and like what he's doing with some of these younger guys. And these guys, Levi O, who hasn't been able to put it together in the past, who's starting to come into their own, and they're starting to now. And it's because of the Terrell Williams. And like he's starting to get a lot of credit. Like Hutch brought him up and was like, I don't think people realize what Coach T is doing for this defensive line. And I think that's like you guys, we give a lot of credit, to all these different positional coaches throughout the Detroit Lions, outside of the ones that have gotten let go. I think Terrell Williams is starting to get into that Scotty Montgomery conversation to where it's like, hey, look what he's doing for the running back. Look what Hank Fraley. I always mix up the first word.
Yeah, no, it's easy.
Hank Fraley does for that offense. Like he gets a ton of credit with that offensive line. Terrell Williams is going to start getting credit for the defensive line.
Hey, real quick though, can Coach T can he get Matthew Betts to being
I would like to,
from what I've read at Booner, explain to the people what give me the background on Matty Betts, what you've been hearing.
It's terrible news. Terrible news. Dan Campbell came out today, and I'm sure people heard a lot. All these people, I'm sure, listened to the press conference today. They did ask Dan Campbell about Matthew Betts, and obviously he hasn't been getting as many reps in training camp. And he basically said, I don't think it's last week. We started to play Sam linebacker a little bit. They wanted to get him on the field, see what he can do. He started having some good practices. Dan Campbell said today that he needs to take a step back. They're pulling him back a little bit. They're giving him less things to do. And it was just because they felt like there was too much on his plate. And I do have the pizza bet on the line. So that was disappointing to hear that.
Well, Booner, I know that does suck, but you've been spot on about Levi. You've been spot on about the wide receiver depth conversation. You can't bat 1,000, Booner, but right now I would say that you're going 2 for 3 on camp narratives. So it's all right. It's all right. You can't win them all. And I think Matty Betts, to your credit a little bit, that was the farthest limb to go out on. And you did it. I give you credit. You did it. You doubled down twice. You put 2 pizza bets on it.
Yeah, but that was a tough one.
It's fair to say, think about a guy like James Houston, who played in the SEC. I know he played at Jackson State originally, or no, he went to Florida, then he went to Jackson State. Yeah. And he was a guy that was SEC talent, and he's trying to learn that Sam position. You could even see it today. Like, James Houston does not look natural at the Sam linebacker position. So for a 29-year-old, strictly edge rushing guy that's coming from the CFL, that's a huge adjustment for him. That's a huge change in speed. So I think if they just simply put him at defensive end, that's the way he's going to make the team, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, man.
Let me add this real quick. Yeah, because let me. You know what? I'm going to offer an olive branch here. Okay, this is like I'll give you this. I'll give you this. He's an edge that produced at Defensive Player of the Year in the CFL. I mean, he had 18 sacks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So at edge. And then he's playing Sam linebacker, and then you hear, well, you might be able to play Sam linebacker. No, let that man do what got him to 18 sacks in the CFL, which is rush the passer. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I stated that I think he'll be on the practice squad. I don't think he'll make the roster, but I'll give you that. I don't really know what the Sam linebacker experiment was. I don't really know. He's an edge. He was productive at edge. Leave him at edge. That's what he should be, and that's what he is. But I don't think he'll make the team. I'm still sticking on that. But I'm giving you my little nugget there, Boone.
No, yeah, and I think that's fine. Now, this is the conversation. I'm glad you guys actually brought that up, like him being in Sam, him being in the edge. And this is what Dan Campbell spoke about in the press conference today. And this is something that gets left out. You hear the start conversation, but the follow-up question after the Matthew Betts thing was essentially like, hey, what does he need to do to make the team? Like, when you're looking at him, like, how do you pick a guy like him to make the roster over different guys? And the one thing that he does say Matthew Betts does have going for him, and something he does look at, is a guy like Matthew Betts compared to some other other players that are competing for that is in when the doc hops on, I'm sure he can, because he was probably at the press conference today, but he said guys like Matthew Betts, when you're looking at him to make the team, can he play special teams and compete? Can he come off the edge and compete? Can he play the Sam? Can he go out there and play some linebacker? Can he do different things that are going to be able to where when they have that, 42 man or 46 man roster on game day, are you able to look at Matthew Betts and say, hey, we can trust him to play all those positions? And they said, like, outside of the Sam position, like, he's athletic enough to be able to do that. He's got this talent to be able to do that. It's about, like, him being able to go out there and kind of take all that knowledge in. So I don't think it's, like, off the table for him to make the roster outside of training camp at all. I think it's just more so he has to go out there and prove that he can play all those different positions and be versatile. When you're at the back end of the roster, that's what it takes is, hey, you need to be able to play on punt return and kick return and kickoff and punt. And like, those are positions you're going to have to play. And if a guy goes down, you're going to have to step into a linebacker spot, maybe for a snap or two, or an edge spot or the Sam spot. So I don't know if it's like, hey, like today he made that comment, we're going to pull him back a little. I think it was more so, hey, we're going to pull him back a little so we can get him in special teams. We can get him running different things and just let him just focus on the edge position and then let the other ones come. And I do think, like, camp's really long. It is a long camp, fellas.
So you're standing, you still think he makes the roster?
Yeah, I'm not buying the pizza for Jeff until the roster cuts happen. So I already made the bet and I'm already locked into the bet. So I'll stick with it. I just think it's like, yeah, today's comments weren't the best. Like, that's probably even for him to hear. I'm sure Matthew Betts, listen, he's like, I appreciate you being straightforward with us. Like, Dan's just a straightforward guy. But he's probably like, all right, I have to lock in. I have to show up and absolutely dominate going forward.
Well, let's get on the doc. All right, let's get the professional in here. All right, let's get our good friend John Maakaron. We saw John again. You know what? I love seeing John. John's working. He's grinding. He sees the fellas. Man goes out of his way to come hang out with us. All right, we're with the fans. I mean, we're below John's level, and he comes out with the media pass, sits right down with us, like, what's up, fellas? He's hanging out with us. We're talking ball. So let's get John in so we could talk more ball and get his perspective on what's been going on with training camp. So please welcome to the show, Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated own and host of the Detroit Sports Podcast, which link will be in the description, by the way. Go read John's stuff for all your news. Please welcome Mr. John Maakaron. John?
Fellas, football's back. I'm excited. I can't even contain myself. I'm drinking two things. I'm going to drink this and this today. Real American beer.
Go.
Nice. I froze them. Let's go,
Double
boys.
fisting.
Football is back. Yes. No.
Doc.
Well, I'm happy. Hey, Doc, you deserve it. You've been working hard.
Yeah.
We'll be out there tomorrow, so you'll be out there. So we'll see you then. I want to start off. Can I ask you this? And we just talked about it. Can I get more of your opinion on the Matty Betts, storyline and how it's been going and where you think it'll end up? Like, what's the end result to you, John, with Matty Betts? How do you see this thing playing out, in your opinion?
Yeah, no doubt, fellas. First and foremost, no way I would ever consider you guys lower than my level. I'm a man of the people. And so I wanted to sit in the stands with the guys and talk to you guys and everything like that. So never, ever. I wanted to see the vantage point of how the fans would experience it. So I never, ever would ever thumb my nose at anybody. I respect everybody that gets out there and tries to. And you guys came out on the worst day, the days where they're just kind of lollygagging around. Just gotta
go back tomorrow, Doc.
But it's all good. I always enjoy an opportunity to talk to you boys and see what you're thinking about. Yeah, Matthew Betts, you guys heard the comments. Man, look, that's where it's just tough making the jump from the CFL to the NFL, is that the speed level, the competition is just so great. And so the Lions saw something. The coaching staff felt like, hey, let's see him at the Sam linebacker spot. Let's see. We like what he can do in coverage. He's got these techniques they wanted to see. But then as they installed the scheme, he started playing slower. And that's just quite a bit challenging. And that's what they probably expected to happen. So what Dan Campbell said was, hey, let's back off, kind of having him do so many different things. Let's get him more confident doing what he's used to. And he told me that, he's used to playing on the edge and rushing the quarterback. And so for Matthew Betts, look, it's challenging right now because you got a couple other guys that are playing better than him at this moment. When I had asked Dan Campbell at the presser, hey, tell me about Broderick Martin. He talked a little bit about Kyle Pecco. You've seen Levi Onwuzurike take a step forward. And you look at Matthew Betts, look, now he's got an opportunity to kind of just focus on your job. And that's where the NFL can get a little bit difficult. Some coaches want players to learn multiple different spots and see what they can do. But Dan Campbell gave clues. He said that, hey, in terms of playability, you got to always kind of think who is going to make this roster and then be active. So for Betts, it's an uphill climb. I think for a couple players on this roster, the preseason is going to determine their fate. And for Matthew Betts, he's got to show out, make plays, be consistent, win the battles. And I think for him, the games against the Giants, Chiefs, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be integral for him. He's got skills. Clearly, when you got the skill to get 18 sacks, he's made plays. I think that he's got the confidence. But when you start thinking too much, it slows you down. So he's got to just gain his confidence, listen to what the coaching staff tells him, let his natural talent come out, and then he's got a chance. But as of now, to give you a sneak peek, I think our first depth chart update coming out the 1st of August, probably not going to have Matthew Betts making it, I would presume, as of now.
Ooh, hey,
he's got more to prove.
So is the first update tomorrow? That's the 1st of August. It comes out tomorrow?
No. What we do is something that people like is, okay, it's been 7 days of camp. We've seen a lot of practices. So different sites will do either 53-man projections or they'll update their current depth chart. We started one before training camp. Now we're going to update ours at Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated.
Love that.
And it'll give a sense of like, okay, who's playing well, who's not, who needs to do more work. So I think that's coming down the road on August 1st tomorrow.
Love that. I want to just ask this question real quick because we've already had the conversation earlier in the show, and like I'm on the side here, so it's the Levi O situation, Levi Onwuzurike situation going on at camp right now. I'm on the side towards, hey, I think Levi Onwuzurike is going to be a big part of this rotation now. He's obviously showed it in minicamp and OTAs, and now you're looking at training camp. You're over a weekend, and the Dan Campbell comments today and everything with that. And I know there are some people in the chat, and obviously Klotz, we had the conversation to where, hey, some people still want to see it a little bit, and they want to see it in a game action. Where are you at with that? And just for you've seen him in pads, you've seen him out there playing. Where do you stand on the Levi Onwuzurike thing? Is it the real deal? And is it actual, this man's going to be in the rotation and making plays?
Yeah, it's such a great story. I remember when he was drafted. Draft night is always great. You get to see the players on Zoom, and he started to represent what the new culture was about. He gets there. We see him on Zoom. He's talking to the media, and the first thing he says is, I love playing defensive lineman. I love my position because I get to fuck shit up. And that's what he said to the reporter. He's like, I'm coming in to cause damage. And it stunk because then he couldn't live up to the billing because of injuries, multiple surgeries, back situation can never really bode well for the early part of his career. And many people thought that maybe he was trending toward being a bust. But now he's carrying a good weight. His back is in order. He's healthy. So now you're starting to see the player that the Detroit Lions saw several years ago. And if he pans out, that just is really indicative of a Detroit Lions scouting department that doesn't have a lot of busts. That's amazing. It would be spectacular when you have another option at defensive line. He looks more fluid. He's been in the backfield nonstop. When you look at your notebook, you clearly have certain numbers you're writing down quite a bit. Clearly number 9, you're writing a lot, 14, 87, but 91 has been written in my notebook so much. I'm excited to see what he can do. And yes, it's for real if he can stay healthy. Now, all you can say is he's got the right mindset. I kind of think maybe he's read our stuff where maybe early on in the preseason, I think I have to believe, I know I wrote it, where maybe he was on the early lists of surprise people that could get cut. So we've tried to talk to him. He won't talk to the media, but he said something to me in passing, politely, very nicely. Some guys will just walk off. Some guys will just say, I'm not talking until I'm forced to. He just said, guys, I'm not talking right now. I'm locked in. And that's what he told me. He's like, I'm not talking to anybody until I'm needed to, but I'm locked in right now. He is loving going to work, making plays, and he's making himself known. So for him, he's got the talent, clearly. He's got the physical size. He's got brute strength. He can get to the quarterback. I think that he can make plays. For him, it's going to be all predicated on staying healthy. If he stays healthy, that takes away the concern level for having John Kaminsky gone. You plug in Levi Onwuzurike, you got him next to Aidan Hutchinson, you can cause some damage. You can move him around and he can do some things. He's ready to do what the Lions are asking of him. Let's just hope that he can stay healthy. It'll be a great thing for this defensive line.
Let's go.
And Doc, something that I don't think is a major storyline by any means, but just something that if you heard after practice, if anything was significant to come out of it, at least running with the ones, Booner kind of spoke on it earlier. Not a lot of Ife Melifonwu. It was a lot of Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Was there a specific reason for that, or what was going on with Ife today?
Look, it's tough. I know you guys were definitely paying attention to like who's playing where at different spots. But guys, look, here's kind of how when you're there day in and day out, this is what tends to happen is different guys are going to rep with ones and twos because different situations are going to happen. So who comes back from a situation in which he's been dealing with an offseason injury is Brian Branch. So they want to see at different spots, okay, what does Brian Branch look like kind of playing with Kirby Joseph? What's he going to look like playing with Ifeatu Melifonwu? So look, Iffy is a guy that probably is the first candidate most people will think is going to play a little bit less, but he's going to play quite a bit due to the fact that he's got a lot of size. He can blitz. He can do a lot of different things. The Lions just love the potential of Brian Branch being impactful at safety. It just opens up a lot of things. And you probably are going to, at different times, look, you've seen, when you're out there, you're going to see sometimes Fountain working with the ones. You'll see him working with the twos. Hendon Hooker and Nate Sudfeld rotate back and forth. Yeah, there's certain things to pay attention to in terms of consistency, like if he's playing a lot of reps with the twos, but he's got his fair share of reps with the ones. And look, Ifeatu Melifonwu, I think, is a stellar player. I think that he embodies everything that the Lions want. He's a good player. Now, can he have as much impact as Brian Branch? I don't know, but I'll say this. I think that when I talked to Kirby Joseph after practice yesterday, I said, look, what's it like playing with Branch and Iffy and having this opportunity to play with these three guys, to play with the safety group? And he said, look, it just gives gives Aaron Glenn more options to deploy different players at different times against different opponents. And so when you have opportunities to match up, the Lions love to run matchups based on who they're playing. And there's going to be times where Ifeatu Melifonwu is the guy they want to bring up to potentially blitz. There'll be times where Brian Branch is the guy that they need out there to be consistently stopping the middle. Kirby Joseph is just always around the football. Look, you got three great safeties, and I think you don't have to worry too much about those three guys other than making sure they stay healthy. Ifeatu Melifonwu was talented. I think he's going to be part of this future for a minute.
In John, another big storyline, Jameson Williams, and you've been at Lions training camp over the last couple of years. I mean, since well before JMO got there, but what has been the biggest improvement to you with JMO? I think for me, John, the route running, his ability to just get open, be more than just a speedster. I mean, we know how talented he is, what he's gifted with athletically, but what has stood out to you with JMO and kind of him being more and more poised to not only take the next step, but be someone that they can depend on, not just for big plays, but for everything, John? What has been some of the things that stood out to you from last year to this year?
Yeah, no doubt. What a difference another year makes in someone's life. He turned 23. He recognized, okay, the first 2 years of my career haven't gone exactly as planned. People are talking about me in a negative light, and he didn't reach his potential. This is a first-round draft choice with a lot of talent, God-given talent to run and get open and to play the wide receiver spot, to play the National Football League. But once you get there, it's one thing to get drafted. It's another thing to put in the work and stay at that level and exceed. And so for Jameson Williams, the first couple years, look, Ben Johnson's offense is no joke. It requires a lot of thinking, a lot of work, a lot of due diligence. And what has, clearly changed in Jameson Williams? Maturity. He has matured. He recognized, okay, I got to focus in on my craft. I got to get into this playbook. I got to listen to the coaching staff, get stronger. And he clearly sees, okay, the organization was willing not to match the contract offer that the Broncos made to Josh Reynolds. And they said, Dan Campbell dangled the carrot. He said, we believe that this year, Jameson Williams can be the number 2 wideout in this offense. And so he went to work. He's running routes so much crisper. And really, in the end, it comes to experience, maturity and experience. He understands where he needs to be. And in a timing offense, if you're exactly where he needs to be, guess what? Jared Goff's going to pull the trigger and throw the football to you. And he's open, he's competitive, and he's somebody that is ultra, ultra competitive and wants to prove that, hey, the talk has been all about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I want some talk about myself. I'm a wide receiver, and I want to contribute. I want to be great. I want to be he said it into the microphone now multiple times. He wants to be considered one of the greats to play the game. And at that level, I think that when you start to put in the work and your talent meets the work you put in, man, the sky's the limit. It's been great to see, right? Targets, not dropping the football, being part of this offense, being part of the mix. And I think that when you mature and you kind of put it all together, remember, he's only 23 years old. So, and sometimes I have to remember that too, in that these guys are young. It's a whole new thing when you're given $19 million to sign your name. You know what I mean? The first thing I would do is, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, maybe go downtown, have a couple parties, celebrate with the fellas, have some real American beers. But once you realize, wait a minute, the people are talking bad about me. They're not liking what I'm doing, and you're not being part of the offense, and you're away, and you make some rookie mistakes. Now you got to be like, wait a minute. This thing can be taken away just that quick. And he just put it all together. And I'm excited to see it. I get out there every day, and I'm excited to see what he can do on Thursday when the Pats, because look, this offense has been not that great outside of Jameson and Amon-Ra collectively. So I want to see them get back to it and put some good plays on tape, because the defense has been shining so far the first couple of days with pads.
Hey, Doc, just to kind of expand on that question, then I feel like one of the bigger battles going on in camp, and I actually saw you on SI write about a little bit about it. Obviously, the wide receiver kind of 4 situation there going on. Dries Fountain, DPJ, and I think Antoine Green is kind of in the mix there. It looked like just out there getting some reps in as well. What is your kind of viewpoint on what's been going on in that room? Who do you think's kind of in the kind of lead spot there and has the best chance of taking that spot? Or maybe 2 of those guys end up making the roster when it comes to special teams and things like that. What is kind of viewpoint on that?
Yeah, it's been crazy. The wide receiver battle, it kind of ebbs and flows. But the guy that's been, making plays, 2 guys really that have been consistent have been Dries Fountain and Caden Davis. 88, it just makes plays. He made a beautiful reception in a situational drill on Tuesday. It was just a dart from Nate Sudfeld. It was under 30 seconds, and Sudfeld had really only a couple plays to get into the end zone. He throws a dart to Caden Davis, and the guy's always making a play or 2 here or there. And I had asked Dan Campbell in the media session, what are your thoughts on what Isaiah Williams needs to do to make the team? And he's like, look, he talks to the players that are lower on the depth chart, and he says, look, it's not about making flash plays. It's about knowing where you need to be consistently every single day. Well, every single day you look up and you're writing number 12 out there, size, speed, experience. I think he's kind of putting it together. He's making a lot of noise. And I think in our latest observations, we've put Antoine Green needs to do a little bit more. I think that, for the talent that he's got, we're not writing his number down in the books too much. Yeah, he's getting reps, but he's not making plays at the level that you would think at this point, second year in. I think number 12 has made a lot of plays. You see his name up there that he's getting targeted. He got reps today and walked through with the ones a little bit more. He's been given the opportunity, and he bounced back because, on I think the first day of padded practice wasn't the best, but he rebounded the last couple of days and has looked a little bit more proficient when he's had the chance. So to me, pay attention to Dries Fountain and Caden Davis. And I think that DPJ and Antoine Green got to show a lot more in the preseason. In practice so far, you see them situationally, but they're not popping as much as 12 and 88.
That's definitely interesting to hear. Another competition that I'm interested to see, and I don't think it's so much because it's you're concerned about it, but I think the best man that wins it, you're going to be very confident in. And with pads being on this week, you really got to see Ennis Rakestraw show what he can do, because he's a player when you can hit, that's what he's all about. So that's the strength of his game. When you look at the surgeons of what he could be, how likely do you think it is that he's going to be starting early on compared to a guy like Emmanuel Mosley, who hits just like Ennis Rakestraw, or a guy like Amik Robinson, who's very good at pass coverage and can also help in the run? Who do you think is going to be starting week 1, and how early do you think it is until we see Ennis Rakestraw?
No doubt, right? You guys saw Ennis Rakestraw balled out the second day of pads on Tuesday, man. He picked off Hendon Hooker. He has just been somebody that stood out significantly. And, you could almost make the case that he's right on par with Terry Arnold in terms of ability and what he's been doing. Like, he's making impactful plays. Now, clearly, Terrion's up against, J-Mo, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be out there against the best of the best on the Lions. But Ennis, in his opportunities that he's gotten out there against Green and against DPJ and working with the twos at times, you see a physical player. He plays bigger than his stature indicates. So with Ennis, it's going to be great to see him flourish. He's a guy that makes plays. I think that he's taken offense to the fact that he dropped in the draft. Do I see him as a starter? I think there's opportunities. Now, look, when we look at football, it's kind of like one of those things where, okay, if Jahmyr Gibbs gets the first series, David Montgomery's still going to think. What you want to really pay attention to is playing time percentage. And it's not going to matter if Ennis Rakestraw is in the second series or not. He's going to play a lot this year. I think they're going to try him at the nickel spot because he can be physical. He can do things. I think there's going to be situations against certain opponents. Well, he'll get a plethora of opportunities on the outside. I think he plays more than 50% of defensive snaps early on, maybe even by week 3 or 4. The man pops. And when I spoke to Kirby Joseph after practice, I said, man, these young guys, they're coming out here working hard. He said, yeah, when the pads are on, Ennis is a dog. And certain guys, when the lights are on, they show out. And Ennis Rakestraw, I think clearly I can say into the microphone, he's underrated. I think we should talk about him a lot more. He made plays. He's impactful. He's physical. He wants to be somebody that plays at a high level. The key for him, like a lot of guys, is can he stay healthy? And I think he dropped because of the pre-draft medical stuff and things like that. But you got to remember, if Brad Holmes does evaluation on you, he didn't draft cornerbacks the first couple of years. It became an area of need. He targeted Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw, and that could be the single greatest lucky factor that the Detroit Lions probably have, is that they could anchor, some veterans with some young cats, and that just can only bode well. It just excites me to talk about the secondary because I love watching the defense, and to see Ennis Rakestraw make plays, that just is only going to push Terrion Arnold. And he, you kind of got, I didn't say he was jealous, but he said, hey, they said, and a reporter asked Terrion, when are your picks going to come? He's like, soon, but they come in bunches. So he's starting to feel the talk a little bit about Ennis, but they're boys. And boy, I love the fact they drafted 2 young cornerbacks that can push each other. I think Terrion and Ennis can anchor this secondary for many years to come. Get excited, guys. They're doing some things. And look, he's going to have some rookie struggles, but Ennis Rakestraw right now, he's doing his thing, and he's getting his name written down in a lot of notebooks.
Yeah, and real quick, going off that, Doc, we were having the conversation yesterday about how you have Ennis Rakestraw, Terrion Arnold, and you also have a second-year player in Brian Branch right behind him. So this secondary, just to what you said, for a long time is going to be in a good spot.
Can I just real quick, Doc? I just want to follow up with Klotzy's question. Just I mentioned the other day that it feels like the conversation with Rakestraw is like you can't keep him off the field, and that was a conversation with Branch last year. Where like it was as training camp went on, and you were at the training camps this year and last year, and it felt like Branch started off really well, and then it just gradually turned it into this guy cannot come off the field. Is it the same feeling? And obviously the skill level may be a little different, as Branches can be one of the best in the entire NFL at his position. But does it still feel like that with Rakestraw this year? We're like, hey, he keeps getting better and better. Pads go on better. Days go on. He keeps getting better. Is that feeling going around kind of like the Brian Branch thing last year?
Yeah, exactly. Great observation. I could see Ennis Rakestraw starting at nickel, but I think the competition is going to be great with Amik Robertson. So it'll be very much an interesting battle to see throughout the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited to see with Carlton, with Amik Robertson and Ennis Rakestraw. You said it. The guy makes plays. And if he continues to evolve and get better, man, when his confidence grows, I think getting the first interception with pads on, it just, everyone's talking to him. Everyone's believing what he can do. And look, guys, he played in the SEC. Look, the guy did some things. He was a guy that actually played on the outside, did some things against some elite competition. And I just love the opportunity that this football team has to kind of have that secondary play at a high level. Because just imagine, you got a defensive line that's expected to be violent. The linebackers are gelling, and you got 3 safeties that all can ball. The only question mark is, can Carlton Davis, Rakestraw, and Arnold really, along with Mosley, can they gel and find the right mix and play at a high level? If they can, look out. Then maybe this defense can get into the top 10. And you guys are talking about too. There's guys in the back on the second and third team making plays. Gilmore and Norris making plays. They're around the ball. So this is good to see that this football team has some depth in the secondary.
Yeah, when
Maurice Norris, not Morris Norris. Maurice.
Booner called him Morris Norris when they first signed him to the team.
Great name, all-time name.
Yeah, it would be. Doc, I'll ask you to stay on that nickel spot. Emmanuel Mosley's been an interesting storyline. We know what he was before the injuries, and I think with today's medicine, you can never count a guy out even after ACL injuries. But it's tough with both knees. What have you seen from Emmanuel Mosley? He's in that battle, in that nickel battle. Kind of your confidence level in just him not only making an impact this year, but maybe even surprising a lot of people. What have you seen from Emmanuel Mosley?
Yeah, look, a feel-good story. Like when you see him get emotional, the work that he did, you never want somebody to have 2 significant injuries. You know how much rehab that is? But the good thing is that when you got a guy that has been through it before, the second go around, you already know what to do. So mentally, I thought that, and I've said this before on this show, last year he could have mailed it in, stayed at home, did things, to be away from the team, but he was back there before the playoffs. He was around the coaches, always in Aaron Glenn's ear. Is a guy that wanted to be here, and he was a guy that put in the work. And if he can stay healthy, look, he's a big physical press man corner. He can do some things. He can provide opportunities to play on the outside. He can play nickel. They're trying him there now because of his big physical nature, and he can match up against some bigger guys that kind of get into the slot in certain packages. But I love what I'm seeing so far. I think that he's a guy that has a lot to prove, wants to be a leader, but I think now has come to terms with, hey, I want to have fun. Every opportunity that I can practice and stay healthy is a blessing. And he's got a great infectious personality, and he's easy to talk to. I think that when you see the skill set, man, guys that can play press man corner and be physical, that can be agile. Look, he believes that he can get back to the level that he was with San Francisco. Just go put on the tape. He was doing some things. He was physical, he was popping the ball loose. He was around the football. And if he can stay healthy, that's just another weapon that can do some things. And that's just a great option to have. It's a great story. And I think that there's opportunities for this player who's hungry. That's the best part, is that he's come to terms with, okay, had my setbacks. Football could have been taken away from me, but now I'm hungry to get on the field and reward the Lions for taking another chance on a player with 2 significant injuries. If he can show out, if he can be somebody that in situations, in certain matchups that you can put on bigger receivers, that's just going to help Ennis and Amik Robertson, who's, not as big as a guy of Emmanuel Mosley's stature. And I think that you're going to like it too, because he's a physical player. And I think that this guy, he's hungry. And when you got a hungry player looking to prove some things, that's when you can get the magic. And I think that if he can just stay healthy, I think he's going to play all over that secondary and play well. I think you're going to see some impact plays later on in the year.
All right, Doc, let's stay with the defense here real quick. Defense as a whole. We've asked you this question. Well, not this question specifically, but we've had a good conversation with you a month or so ago about, can this defense be top 15? Can it be top 10? What is the highest and the peak that this defense can go? We're in training camp, and Dan Campbell, I think it was today or at some point, he talked about how he was talking with AG and said, hey, this defense is like, we're feeling it right now. This is a defense, and this thing's legit. Are you feeling that through probably 8 days of camp now, 7 days of camp? Is it like, hey, this could actually be a top 10 defense, if not better, especially if this D line gets together? And it feels like Terrell Williams has these guys absolutely just playing at their best as well, and he's just gotten with them for the last couple months. Do you feel like that with this defense? Like, yep, this is going to be a top 10 defense, or they have a very, very high ceiling?
Yeah, no doubt. First and foremost, real fast, I do want to give a review of this for your audience, okay? Because I've drinking a lot of them. I have one in my office. I have a case here. And look, I don't want to get political. I just was giving an honest review. And I bought it, and I said, you know what? Chill it, get it nice and cold. For a light beer, this is better than Bud Light. Now, it kind of has a taste of like Labatt's, but I know that people are like, oh, light beers for punks and shit like that. But I'm going to tell you, after a hard day's work, talking to you fellas, grinding in the heat, this real American beer goes down well, and then you chase it with Corona. I think this is the greatest interview I think I'm going to give you guys. This is great. Listen, if you put aside personal matters, give it a try. Come back, tell me if I'm full of shit or whatever. Put the politics aside. The beer's good. It goes down well when it's cold, and they're going down well for the DOC. I love it. So
for the DOC. I love beer, Doc, so I'll try any beer. I'm a beer guy.
Try it. It's available in the greatest county in Michigan, Macomb County, because obviously, clearly, you know the representation of that county, but Macomb County is great. You can get it there. It's $20 and 12 cans. Enjoy it, ice it up, and enjoy it, man. You can throw them down. They're pretty easy. It tastes pretty good. Now, I love defense. You're talking to the right guy. I grew up loving the Bears defense, Baltimore defense, great defenses, clamoring. I grew up with Spielman. I grew up with one of the greatest linebackers that I got to see was Chris Spielman, and the way in which he attacked the game and the manner in which he wanted to destroy people. And man, I love, that's why you can see a lot of my photos are with the defensive players. That's why I get in trouble because I'm so hard on them. Like, hey, step it up. I've wanted to see a good Lions defense for so long. I almost got into a fight with Alex Anzalone because of my trash talking with Derek Barnes. Like, step it up, make the plays.
I like your odds in that situation, Doc.
I stood my ground. Listen,
the odds were minus 500.
I stood my ground, and he understood my point. I think we have a newfound respect that I wasn't trolling. I was saying, hey, it was coming from a good place. And I think that this defense can be top 10. When you got the swagger, the pieces are in place. We haven't even talked about DJ Reader and Marcus Davenport. Listen, I don't know why when I'm talking to these guys, they start like for the past, and I think others have maybe gotten this kind of rhetoric, but they love when I go up to them, they love to tell me how violent they want to be. They love, like from Kirby Joseph's rookie year, I've been writing headlines of how violent this defense is. Aleem McNeil, how violent they want to be. Broderick Martin tells me today, everyone's wanted to talk to him. So I go up to him and talk to him. Hey, what do you want this defensive line to be about? He's like, I want this defensive line to be the nastiest, most aggressive motherfuckers out there in the world. And I'm sitting there going, man, this is great. I love this kind of stuff because Aaron Glenn has been open to the point of saying, I want this to be a nasty, hard-hitting, you're going to get punked defense. And he hasn't had the weapons yet to deploy that. Now, when you got three linebackers that all can hit, you got a defensive line. Aleem McNeil called Marcus Davenport a silent killer when I asked him. I don't know, maybe I give off the vibe of aggression or something. Like when I ask these questions, they just start getting aggressive. Like they're just like, Marcus Davenport wants to rip people's faces off. And he's got the nose ring. And the best part of Marcus Davenport is he was walking off the field today. And I said, hey, off the record, I'm John Maakaron with Sports Illustrated. I'm looking forward to having some conversations with you this year. He just smiles, nods his head, and walks off. And silent killer, like he's going to be like somebody you can just crack a joke with, but when he's on the field, wants to rip your face off. And that's what I want to see. I want to see, led by Aidan Hutchinson, I want to see this defensive line destroy quarterbacks, starting with Matthew Stafford. Hit list. Stafford's first on that hit list, and they're out for blood. And I think this defense has a lot to prove. They've heard a lot of talk about the offense and Goff and St. Brown and Laporta, and they've heard all the national media talk about how great this offense is. I think the defense is looking at it like, wait a minute, we can go out here and punk people. And they punked Hendon Hooker. They punked Jared Goff on Tuesday. It was a full-on defensive performance that was great. And so for me, I would love to see it. I've been clamoring for that. I would love to win defensive battles. I'd love to have a team that can intercept the ball, sack the quarterback, and win games 20-10. That would be fabulous. Guys, listen, I'll say this. Now, this is crazy talk. Now, this is beer talk, okay? This is clearly beer talk, okay? But nobody in their right mind is going to say this on the air, but I'll say it. If this defense, okay, let's just say it this way. This is beer influence, guys. Premise. This is beer influenced. If the Detroit Lions defense is top 5, okay?
Hold up.
Could you see them not losing a game all year?
Whoa.
Think about that. If the defense sacks the quarterback, pressures Terrian Ennis, everybody stays healthy, Aidan, Marcus, DJ Reader. Fuck it. Why can't they go undefeated? Why not have the ultimate craziest Miami Dolphins season ever? Now, of course, that's not likely, but think about it. From the perspective of a defense, if the defense can match how great the offense is at some point, maybe not this year, maybe in the next year or two as Brad Holmes gets more talent, think about what you got in terms of the youth on this team. Jack Campbell, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw. You got Aidan Hutchinson, not even yet in his prime. You got Brian Branch, who Chris Spielman with his own legitimate evaluation. Guys, I think I sound smarter with the more beer I drink. Think about it, that if you build a defense to match what Goff can do with this offense, let's go undefeated. Why not? 17 games in a row, win the Super Bowl, get up there, celebrate, and wash away the stench of the nastiest football we've ever seen. Listen, and listen, it's hyperbole. It's fun talk on a Wednesday. But what I'm saying is, if the defense can just go from 19th to 10th, man, there's a legitimate chance you win the Super Bowl and win a lot of games. So cheers to that. Please let this defense shine. If they continue this upward climb, this football team can do epic things.
17-0, Doc. I love it.
I will. Hold
cheers,
on.
17, baby.
I'm all for the positivity. I'm all for the beer talk. I love it. But here's the reality. Can I give you this? I wanted to Google last team to have a top 5 offense and defense because I was curious. It was the 2017 Eagles, top 5 in offense, top 5 in defense. They were 13-3, but it doesn't matter. They're going to be 17-0. I'm with you. Fuck all the data.
So if the Lions go undefeated, you know where you heard it first. But again, I prefaced it 6 times. I'm drinking. I'm having a good time, and I'm just looking at dream scenarios. But just imagine, in all seriousness, if this defense can step it up, it takes so much pressure off of Jared Goff. They don't have to score 30 points a game. They can just score 20. First team to 20 wins. And I think that Aaron Glenn is as competitive, just from reading him, the way he talks, the way in which he exudes wanting this defense to play at a high level, violently, aggressively. If this defense now has the talent, if they can live up to the execution of what they need to do in terms of the scheme, guys, we could have a fun season with violent hits, interceptions, and just a lot of fun things that can happen. So I'm excited. Like I said, I come from a defensive perspective. I've given up to the fact that if I ever had a football career, I'd want to be a defensive coordinator. I'd want to stop opponents. I'd want to match up against opponents like Jameson Williams and Jared Goff and talk a bunch of shit when my guys sacked them. It's violent. That's the best part of the game, is hitting the other dudes and making them stop. So would be my dream, would be to be a defensive coordinator. That'd be amazing.
Doc, you'd have a number 1 defense, but
number 1 defense.
I think Doc would get the fellas. He would get them fired up. I'll say that.
All right, Coach. Coach promised if they go undefeated, I'm getting a free case of beer. So everyone in the chat, I think you should agree because it's that bold. Everyone in the chat should throw one Doc's way as well because ain't nobody talking crazy like that on air.
No, Doc, and you just got done preaching about this defense, and I think the most important job for them, at least team-wise, is stopping Jordan Love. So I have a couple questions for you, kind of two-parter. One, what do you think about the Jordan Love extension that he just signed in Green Bay? And 2, you just got done talking about the secondary and all the moves that have been made to this defense. How do you see them matching up specifically with the Packers personnel? Do you think it's going to be one that gives them trouble, or do you think they'll be able to handle their own?
Yeah, no doubt, man. It was real interesting. I should have wrote a story on it, but it was the end of the month, and there was so much going on. We're writing 10 stories a day at Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. But the NFL players voted Jordan Love higher than Jared Goff. I think that's crazy. Look, he's more athletic. I think that he's got the ability to extend plays. But when you look at totality, I think Jared Goff's better than Jordan Love. I think that he's got far more experience. Dan Campbell said today on SiriusXM that he's thinking that Goff's close to being like Drew Brees in terms of being a wizard, of seeing the defense and understanding what he needs to do 3 steps ahead. And guys, look, when you hear about the struggles offensively, it's because the Lions defense is playing well. But if iron sharpens iron and the Lions offense can take that next step, then you recognize, look, Jared Goff is playing at a high level. Jordan Love, look, he's got a lot of weapons, got a great offensive mind for a coach, but just like any quarterback, you reduce the time that he has to throw, it's going to be problems. And I think that for the Detroit Lions, that's why the key is the defensive line, Aidan Hutchinson. If Aidan can get to 15 sacks, he'll make Jordan Love's life a nightmare. He'll put his ass on the ground. He'll take him out of the game. And I always vote that, look, a young quarterback that has talent, look, that's fine. He's got talent. He's got weapons. I love Reed. Clearly, the green support that I will always give to former Spartans is great. I love what he's doing. But I'll look at it like this. I would bet pretty much bet highly the Lions are going to be back-to-back division champions. I think that they were offended that they lost to Green Bay on Thanksgiving. I think that when you hear Amon-Ra saying he hates the Packers fans, Jordan Love is good. I think he's going to have a good season. But they, to get that much money that he got for one season, it's kind of reeks of desperation. And I think that hopefully the Lions will show for many years to come that they made the right investment in Jared Goff.
Doc, I want to ask you, this is my annual backup quarterback question. Okay, and I got to have an honest conversation with you, Doc, because, Hendon Hooker, OTA's minicamp, doesn't seem like he's ready. Pads come on. Training camp, doesn't seem like he's ready. I said this, week one right now, I would lean towards either adding somebody or going Nate Sudfeld. I don't think Hendon Hooker will be ready week one. I don't think he's a complete just bum and he can't play. I just don't think he'll be up to speed by then. I think it's still going to go into the season. There's still things he has to iron out. But your takeaways from Hendon Hooker and kind of his progression up until this point.
Oh, my takeaways from Hendon Hooker. See how much is left? Oh, let's drink up. Oh, man.
This is how you know Doc's about to go off.
Man.
Take a swig. Yep.
Hendon's been brutal. It's been tough. You guys saw, did you guys watch today in walkthroughs? He got a pass. It's very rare that you see a tip pass in walkthroughs.
Oh, no.
You guys saw it. I was sitting there. I was talking to another reporter. You're sitting there and you throw the ball and it gets tipped in a walkthrough. The walkthrough is designed for the guys wide open and you just throw it to him. Hendon was struggling with the snap. He was struggling a little bit. Oh, my God. It's tough. Look, he's a true rookie. Can't be disrespectful, but he's not ready. He's not QB2. If Christian writes a depth chart and he has Hendon Hooker, he's going to be out of a job. Nate Sudfeld's the backup. Unless, sometimes in the very rare instances that guys are just shitty practice players and they go out on the field when the lights are on and they just ball out. Hendon is in for a rough preseason because the game's faster. NFL speed is totally different. He's got to make a lot of reads. And Ben Johnson is not waiting around for this guy to develop. It's like go, go, go. Even in the walkthrough, they were pushing tempo. Let's go. Make your read, throw the football. And he gets a little bit hold on to the football a little bit too long. Look, it's just a situation in which this offense is not for developing players at this point. Nate Sudfeld is the better quarterback as we talk today. He's got more command. Look, either or, if Nate Sudfeld or Hendon Hooker are playing quarterback at some point in the regular season, something went terribly wrong with injury and something like that. So you don't want to bank on any of them. You look at it like Hendon's got to develop, and it's small goals. Okay, run the tempo, get to the line, call the right play, get to it, and execute. And he's got to do it on a more consistent basis. And look, this is kind of how rookies look. The light hasn't come on yet. It's brutal. It's tough to watch. It sucks because you kind of thought that, okay, a lot of people upsell mental reps and things like that. You spent a year with Teddy Bridgewater. You spent a year with Jared Goff. What were you doing? But he wasn't on the field. He was the scout team quarterback. So there's a lot of things that are different. Now, look, this is also a testament to the defense. They're not fucking around. They don't care about Hendon Hooker. They want to intercept the ball. They want to pop the other side of the ball. So at this point in time, Hendon Hooker is a developing quarterback. He's the number 3. And until he starts showcasing consistency, he threw the ball to a couple guys yesterday. The interception that he had to Ennis Rakestraw, I didn't see it live. I was chit-chatting with Easy in his Crocs. I was laughing hysterically. I almost fell down laughing, so I missed a rep. But the rep that I missed talking, I also got to see Herman Moore out there. And I always just, when you see Herman Moore out there, it just harkens memories of the 91 season, him high pointing balls. So I got starstruck and just stopped watching football and just talking to Easy.
That's fair.
Just talking to Easy and his Crocs and just laughing. I missed the Ennis Rakestraw's big play live. But from everyone that I talked to, they said that it was just a shitty throw. And it's just not, look, it's going to happen. Look, I'll say this in terms of development. You look at it like you want him to make the mistakes now. And Ennis Rakestraw talked to me about this when he talked to me about daily progression and things like that. He said, look, you want to make mistakes so that you can go on film and learn from it. So early on, it doesn't seem yet that the magic has clicked in for Hendon Hooker. I think it will. I think he's got the talent. You could see at times flashes of a big arm. You can see his quick mobility. But life in the NFL is fast. These guys are not impressed with Hendon Hooker's stats. They don't care. The defense wants to embarrass Hendon Hooker. And so far, I don't think you need to make a move. I just think that you just would roll with Nate Sudfeld and Hendon Hooker as the 3, and you keep it moving. And it's just unfortunate right now because I don't like writing number 2 is struggling at this point in time. But that's the facts. That's the facts as we sit right now. Hendon Hooker is 3rd on the depth chart.
Oof, it's tough, Jeff. I didn't mean for that. Woof. That was not meant. That was not meant to be.
You guys saw it. Who gets a pass tipped in a walkthrough?
Yeah, I mean, John, I got nothing for you. I got
there was a crowd of people who thought that Hendon Hooker was going to be starting week 1 over Jared Goff. Let's not extend Goff. Let's start Hendon Hooker. Let's move on from that. There was that crowd that came at me a little bit when I said let's back off the Hendon Hooker thing. But that's just I can go back and get receipts. But annual question for me as well here weekly for you, Doc. I know you guys are putting out your guys' depth chart tomorrow. It sounds like August 1st. Who is someone that the people and the fans can be kind of keeping an eye out here, at least for you as of right now in training camp, that's a potential cut candidate that you think might be on the edge, or let's say that you feel like, hey, he can be cut. Is there a specific guy or two that's on that line there?
Man, it's tough. Yeah, the competition's tight. You look at the defense and you see a lot of competition. I'm curious to see in regards to, the battle with Stephen Gilmore. Does Stephen Gilmore take the next step forward in his progression? He's making plays. He's popping. So I think that he's going to find a way at least to the practice squad here. In terms of cut candidates, who's somebody that is struggling? Look, you have to look to the wide receivers. I think Antoine Green and DPJ, not that they're going to be cut. They got to do more. They're not consistently popping in terms of making plays in regards to, consistently showing progression. So I would not be surprised if one of those two is not on this roster, especially if Fountain continues to shine at a high level. So the preseason, look, I think we'll revisit this after the first preseason game because, practice starts and this is still the acclimation phase. After a game, you get an opportunity to see how these guys perform when the lights are the brightest. But I think Antoine Green and DPJ are not showing enough to warrant their spot at wide receiver 3 and 4. You look at it and you say, okay, Khalif Raymond, he's the return guy. He's definitely consistent. Down on the depth chart, you need guys that are going to contribute at a high level. So you need those wide receivers to play at a high level. So on offense, look at the wide receivers. On defense, I think that's interesting. I think James Houston's done enough. He's developing. He's got the skill that everybody wants. So I don't think he's lower. I think that he's doing the thing that he needs to do. I just think that the camp battles that you're seeing kind of have a way of establishing themselves. Maybe a CJ Moore. So I know they love him on special teams, so that makes him a prime candidate to stick around. But you got a lot of safeties. I think Brandon Joseph is battling for a job with CJ, and I think special teams will have an opportunity. So one of those two guys probably will end up on the practice squad. So you look at it and you say a lot of nice battles to watch, and maybe another one. You know what? A name that kind of is a name you got to watch that needs to step it up. I've had, if you look at Detroit Lions on SI, we kind of talk about who's playing well, but we also have a couple of headers that I have that say who needs to step it up. So I've had clearly that DPJ, Antoine Green need to step it up, But a player that you're not writing his name in the book all that much is number 82, James Mitchell. I think Zylstra is a better blocker. I think Brock Wright is consistent. Dan Campbell, when he was asked, hey, who's shining? He said Parker Hesse. So you look at it and you say, you're not hearing a lot of James Mitchell. He's got a big frame and he seems athletic, but I just kind of feel like in talking with people, he's kind of plateaued. Like you get what you get, but you're not seeing the steady progression. So if James Mitchell is not on this roster, I would not be surprised.
Klotz and I actually talked about that when we were watching practice today. We were talking tight ends, and we were like, he was like, is James Mitchell even out there?
Doing it? Yeah, it's like he's there. He has good skills, but you're not seeing him pop. Like you're in a competition for your life, and you're getting production okay, but there's been times where he's had miscommunication and reps, and I just think he needs to do more. It's time. Like the lights are on. Let's go. It's time to show what you're about, because right now it kind of feels like it's Laporta, Brock Wright, and Shane Zylstra as the front runners.
And kind of another competition, a guy that I think is really going to be fighting for a spot on this team long term, and you have a little bit of history with, is Derek Barnes, Doc, because we see a lot of James Houston rotating in there at Sam, but you can just tell it's not the natural fit. How is Derek Barnes coming along as far as improvement this year, and how much do you think we're going to see him on the field compared to last season?
Yeah, no doubt. Real fast. Can you believe Easy said that the Falcons are going to wash the Lions because of Ritter and Bijan?
It's crazy.
Get that on air? My God, how can somebody with that much credibility say something like that? I heard it. No, I
heard it too. I heard it as well.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't hear it, but now I think I did hear it.
I think I heard it. I think Easy said some wild ass shit like that. I think he remember he took a gummy, put on his Crocs, and started talking shit into his podcast. So it happens. You know, you drink, you say things, and then you remember, like, Doc, did you say that the team's going to go undefeated? No, the fuck, I didn't say that. Oh, yeah, you did. We got video of it. Oh, shit, yeah, I did say it. But here's why. So, what was the question again? I apologize.
Derek Barnes, Doc.
Derek Barnes. Yeah. Man, I love Derek Barnes. And I'm going to tell you why. The man is pissed. Clearly, everyone's talking about Jack Campbell. Second-year rise of Jack Campbell. This guy is going to dominate. This guy's going to take over. Wait a minute. If you're Derek Barnes, you're like, wait a minute. I made a play in the postseason. Yeah, I made an epic mistake that got me really looked at in the negative light, but he took it the best way possible. And I like guys like that. Derek Barnes, I think, is a guy that started off with a certain skill set. He's built his game, and I think he's working towards being an emotional leader. The man is violently aggressive. He wants to be in the mix. He wants to be a guy that's known to be a leader. And I think that, you know, sometimes when a bad play happens, you got to assess how a person responds to it. That Dak Prescott play really got him lit up online. Like everybody, like when Alex showed him the video I posted on Twitter, you know, Derek didn't get mad. Derek, we talked man to man, and he was just like, what'd you post and why'd you post it? And we talked man to man. And I just said, look, I have a entertaining site. I was posting about hoping that the next time you have a chance to make a play, I hope that you make it. And he did. And when he did, I credited him. I said, hey, I'm glad you had the chance to make the play. So just as much as you talk about someone's play that they didn't make, you have to highlight the plays that they did make. And he got an interception in training camp. I think that the talk of him getting his reps taken away from Jack Campbell has pissed him off, and he's ready to get to work. And he's ready to show that, hey, I'm not going to give up my linebacker spot just that quickly. And I do think that he's going to have a breakout year. I think he's going to play well. I think that when your best friend and guys, here's the crazy part. I wish they would have showcased the video on the Lions site. They have this brawl. All of a sudden, you see this blonde-haired dude just flying into it, and it's Alex Anzalone. I mean, I'm talking about Alex doesn't seem to be a guy that's all that fast. That man looked like he had 4.1 speed trying to get into that scrum, trying to save his boy from Dan Skipper. And he flew into that scrum, and they're tight. Like, they're super tight. And Alex will defend Derek against anybody, even a podcaster, a writer. He'll defend his guy again. And you love to see that. There's a tight camaraderie between Derek Barnes and Alex Anzalone. And I see it. You can see the emergence of a leader. Derek Barnes has that factor where he's been burned, but he took it and he used it to make himself a better player. I think he's going to bring the pressure. I think you're going to see interceptions. I think you're going to see him run down freely, make some tackles. I see a breakout year for Derek Barnes. And I'm not just saying that because Alex threatened to whoop my ass, but no, I'm kidding. He didn't threaten to whoop my ass.
Imagine that headline the next morning. Alex Anzalone.
He didn't literally say, I'm going to whoop your ass, but he did stand right in my face and say, why did you post that? And I had to look at him right in the face and say, because. So I love linebackers with that spirit. Let's go whoop some ass. And I think that's the way it's got to be.
I love it. John, we appreciate you so much. Legend. It's always a blast. We'll catch you out there tomorrow. Oh, hey, we'll have pads on. So hey, we'll have more to look forward to. But keep up the great work. Check out John's stuff. Link will be in the description for all. Not only the website, which content will be all over, but also the podcast. Go give his podcast a listen. But John, we'll talk to you next Wednesday, my man. We appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. I think you can see I took on the challenge head on. I think it was a good week of reporting from Detroit Lions on SI. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me. I definitely will give a nod and make sure you guys keep doing what you do. Your assessments are spot on. Your takes are great. And we just got to make sure that Easy in the chat has got to stop going on camera and saying that Jared Goff can't wash Jordan Love's balls. That's not right. That's not safe. That's not. I mean, I know there's Jordan Love appreciation, but to say that Jared Goff can't sniff Jordan Love's jockstrap on air in front of millions of people on your show, you got to tone that down, okay? Jared Goff, listen, I know he's not the most speedy guy, but you got to have more respect for people. You got to have more respect for people, Easy. I love you guys. Let's talk soon.
Let's do it. There you go.
Doc.
Doc.
Love you, Doc.
John Maakaron.
And he's gone.
Yeah. And he's gone. And he's gone.
I wanted to confirm with him that there are pads tomorrow. Our luck knowing we show up tomorrow and they're like, Dan's like, let's just do another day of
another walkthrough.
I would I promised you, like, I would be so mad. Like,
well, he'll go out, he'll see you and be like, oh, Booner's here. Fuck. All right, get the pads off.
He did see me today. He looked me dead in my eyes, said, Booner, love the beer. Nah, he didn't. That would have been nice.
Love the beer. Yeah. Booner's walking around training camp 9:30 a.m. with beer.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
Pads are tomorrow, Ryan. Shout out to you, Ryan.
Shout out, Ryan.
But also, before we get in the mailbag in about 7 minutes, you want to go through, do a little roster assessment here, offense and defense. Who do we think will be out there closer to the season? Boone, you want to lead this one off?
Yeah, I think it's similar. Like, obviously the doc, and it's crazy timing too, because I mentioned to you guys before the show. I was like, hey, we should do something since we were there today, and as well as getting into training camp, we should just do like not our depth chart, but hey, this is our projected. This is what the offensive lineup's going to look like. This is what the defensive lineup's going to look like. And if you have a guy like a sub or a backup you think will rotate in, we could put that in as well. Like Doc said, they're putting out their depth chart tomorrow because we've been so far into training camp. So my thought was we each just kind of give ours offensively, defensively, and make a prediction. To be honest, like who do you think will be, the starting wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4? Obviously, other positions on offense, that's like the only one. But let's just do offense and then we'll do defense. Is that fair? We'll start off with offense and then we'll do defense.
Yeah. Are we doing our own or are we doing it as a group?
We'll do our own. I think we should do our own. So, and I'll kind of lead us off here because I'll go, obviously, Frank. I think the offensive line is set, correct? Like, I don't think there's going to be any change in the offensive line. Goff, obviously. I put Gibbs in mind because I think he's going to be the lead back this year. Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. And this is where things start to get a little this is on the offensive side. Defense, we'll be able to get a little more conversation. I think the wide receiver 3, and I put Khalif Raymond kind of in that spot there to where obviously
as you should.
Yeah, the third man. I know a lot of people are saying, well, the wide receiver 3 is the battle, the X. Like, no, I think J-Mo's a guy that's going to be able to play outside a little bit. And I think Khalif's going to be a guy that's going to get the majority of wide receiver snaps. And then what I think comes after that is I think that fourth guy is going to end up being Darius Fountain. That's my fourth guy. And then I think the fifth guy there, guys, I think they keep 5 wide receivers or maybe 6, but I think the fifth guy there is going to be DPJ. And I know I've been like off DPJ and all of that. I know we saw him just through walkthrough and he was getting reps today. So like that gives me a little bit of he hasn't been talked about a ton, but he's still out there getting reps, and he is a vet. So I think Darius Fountain takes that fourth wide. Like, that's my prediction, is Darius Fountain takes that fourth spot there.
Hey, Boone, I think we have the exact same one. Because I would probably, at this point, if Donovan Peoples-Jones isn't doing too much and Fountain just goes out there and has a solid preseason, I think at this point, I mean, I know DPJ's been around, but he really hasn't. So it's not like he has levels of understanding of Ben Johnson's playbook compared to Fountain. And Fountain, while he hasn't been productive in his NFL career, knows what the NFL is like. It's not his first destination. So I think that there's a real shot he could be the wide receiver for this team. And you're spot on about Khalif Raymond. Like, people saying like Khalif Raymond is not the wide receiver 3 on this team. Like, I don't know what offense you're looking at, but Khalif Raymond, I think it goes Amon-Ra, gap, J-Mo, gap, Khalif Raymond, cliff of a drop off, wide receiver 4. There's a huge gap there,
especially with the experience.
I agree with everything except.
So, oh my God.
DPJ is going to be wide receiver 4. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That just gets me every time.
Darius Fountain will be wide receiver 5. He will be think about it like this. Darius Fountain. It's one spot. So let's keep it.
Yeah.
But my thinking on this, Boone, is this. Hear me out. Come the season, you want someone that's been in this offense, someone that's been in the NFL, someone that's at least, if there is an injury, who's going to be the first guy to step up? I would think it would be DPJ. Okay. He's been in this offense. He's a vet, I guess, in NFL terms. So I would still put him at that wide receiver 4 spot. I think Fountain will make the roster. I think he's right behind him. I have him over Antoine Green. So I think he's ahead of it. So it's one spot. It's the only thing we disagree on. But I'm gonna still roll with DPJ. All right. I'm still gonna put him
fair.
Just because of the experience. That's what I'm leaning on.
I think that's fair. I'm out on it. I think right now Fountain has the spot, which I'll stick with that until like the training camp is so weird because there's so many weeks to it. Like, it's so long to where it can go up and down so fast. Like, Antoine Green for the next 2 weeks could just go off, and you're like, oh, Antoine Green's the 4th guy.
Yeah.
So there is that point. The prediction though, and I like that kind of as a prediction for you because DPJ, we know what he can be. So if he starts to do that, then he's going to get that spot. But I just think Fountain continues. Like, when a guy starts building momentum and doing what you playing that well, especially with the Lions organization, I think that helps out a lot. All right. You guys want to do defense? Let's do defense.
Let's do it. Yes, sir.
All right. So I guess this is where things are going to get interesting because there's a lot of, so I'll give you guys my 11, and I also have subs and different things and then we can go off of that, and then you guys can do yours and your subs and who you think will be next man up. So obviously I have Aidan Hutchinson on the defensive line, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, in my mind, I was thinking DJ Reader's hurt, so I put Broderick Martin. Let's say
that's the thing. DJ Reader is healthy week 1.
Let's say he's healthy. Let's say he's healthy. So Hutch, DJ Reader, Ali McNeil. This is where things get a little interesting. I think the guy who's playing the spot right now continues to play the spot. I think that's Levi O. I think Levi O is going to be playing that spot, going out wide a little bit. And
so you think he's starting? So our conversation that we were in earlier.
But no. Wait, no. Because I've been very and Jeff, you can vouch for me on this. I've been very, very vocal on the other side of Hutch. It is a big time rotational spot.
And you're putting that in
Levi O, Davenport,
Houston.
I want to say we saw Pascal lined up out there today. Like, those guys are going to be the rotation. I just think when you see the initial lineup come week 1, I think you could say, hey, Levi O is going to be the guy on the field, and Davenport's going to be coming in for him, and that's going to be the main rotation there. That's just me. Remember, this is predictions, boys. That's my prediction. I think Levi continues this. I think he's healthy now. I think he's kind of on the go, and he's starting to build his momentum, and I think he builds it all the way to week 1. Obviously, I think CB1, Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, CB2. I think those 2 guys are locks for those positions. I'm going to build a little bold prediction here. The nickel. I think this conversation, I go back to the Brian Branch thing, boys. That Brian Branch slowly built momentum through training camp, and he just stacked. Klotz, in football, you stack practices, and you stack and you stack. Coaches start to notice that. And once people start to talk, which we're a weekend, and a lot of people are talking about Ennis Rakestraw. And I think this is a thing where if he stays healthy through training camp and through week 1, I think Ennis Rakestraw, I know he's only playing with the 2s right now, but if he keeps making plays with the 2s, he's going to get moved to the 1s. And I don't think Rakestraw is a guy where wherever he's playing, he's going to stop making plays. He's going to continue to make plays. He's going to continue to be a dog. I think Rakestraw ends up, my prediction, bold prediction, he's in the starting lineup come week 1 at nickel.
So go through the entirety of it, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Yep. And then obviously I have Jack and Anzo in the linebacker spots, Kirby and Branch. I have Iffy out. I think I think Branch is a lock for safety. After seeing today, I think Branch is a lock and Kirby. Now I did do this. I had the Sam linebackers. I just think it's going to be a Barnes in Houston. I think Barnes is going to be the guy to kind of start it off, and Houston will get rotated in. And then obviously the rotation of DBs is Emmanuel Mosley and Amik. But that's kind of my starting 11.
All right, Lucas, you want to go next?
Yeah, okay, so I'll go defensive line, Hutch, Reeder, Aleem, and then if Levi O is starting, I think that's a huge disappointment for Marcus Davenport, because if you have Marcus Davenport, you're signing him for what he was when he's healthy, and he's healthy. So you're trying to get that money's worth out of him. You're paying him more than Levi O. But to Booner's point, I do think there will be a rotation there, so it's not like Marcus Davenport is just going to be controlling all of the snaps there. But that's my starting four for the defensive line, at least. Behind them, obviously, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone. On the perimeters, Terrion and Carlton. And then week 1, I am really starting to buy into the Emmanuel Mosley hype. I think especially because he's played in games against Matthew Stafford and he knows what the LA Rams offense is going to be about. Week 1, I think it's going to be him or Amik. I'm splitting hairs between those two. But I just think matchup-wise, man-to-man-wise, I think Emmanuel, just because he's a longer corner, I think he just fits matchup, especially in the red zone, and he's a little bit better against the run than Amik. But in the back end, I've said it once, I said it twice, I'll double down. Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, that's going to be one of the best safety duos in the NFL this year. And then you're going to have Iffy and Derek Barnes rotating at the Sam, and then not Iffy at the Sam, but you'll have them rotating at the Sam and nickel spot as well.
You guys, man, I can't believe it. I mean, I'm shocked. I just am. And not even at the defense now. And I'll tell you why in a second. Defensive line, I do agree with Klotz. I do have it. Aidan Hutchinson, DJ Reeder, Aleem McNeil, and then I have Marcus Davenport. I have him starting. And then behind them, Anzo and Jack, we agree. Safeties, we all agree. Kirby and Brian Branch. Outside corners, clearly, Carlton and Taron Arnold. In the slot, did Amik Robertson just fall off a cliff? I mean, what are we doing here?
No.
I mean,
neither did Emmanuel Mosley.
I think all three of these guys. The thing is I think all three of these guys have an argument. Like, I don't think this is a crazy thing. Being
Amik Robertson, I promise you, will be in the slot on week 1. He will be in the slot. I promise.
But to Booner's point, very well, especially against the Rams. If you're going to have 3 wide receivers out there, the best man-to-man guy between all of them, especially day 1, is Emmanuel Mosley. Like, without a doubt, he's the guy that lined up on his perimeter. His whole career was on the perimeter.
Hey.
Two ACLs, you know what that's going to do? It's going to slow you down. So you're not going to be out on the big guys outside. You're going to be on the shifty guys on the inside, which he's much longer than. Matchup-wise, Amik's going to be great for this team. But you cannot just be like, there's no way Emmanuel Mosley better be starting week 1. Like, that is wild to me.
I'll take the guy with 2 less knee injuries and someone who played outside corner. I'll take that guy.
How often do you think Amik Robertson's going to be making impact plays against the run?
A lot. He did it with Las Vegas.
On the outside corner position?
He played nickel too.
But compared to outside corner, there was a drop off there, because the whole thing with Amik was there was a significant. He did play inside, but it was a significant drop off. That's why people were like, well, why are you going to play him inside? Why is he going to be playing nickel? Because he's a better fit at nickel, absolutely. But Emmanuel Mosley has played longer. He's matched up a guy, if we're talking specifically week 1, has matched up against Cooper Kupp multiple times, who's going to be in the slot a lot. So he's familiar with him. Has matched up against Matthew Stafford multiple times. He knows what this is all about. Week 1, if you want the most sure thing, in my opinion, is Emmanuel Mosley, and then you bring in Amik right behind him. Then you bring in Rakestraw right behind him. But I don't think you're crazy for picking Amik. But it's not crazy to pick Emmanuel Mosley or Ennis Rakestraw.
No, I don't think it's crazy.
So, Jeff, you're acting like it. You're acting like it's like, oh my gosh, you guys left out Amik. Like, first of all, I said Amik's going to be the first guy in the secondary. Second of all, Amik Robertson's the one that literally just did an interview a day ago at training camp and said he was the one that brought up there is a competition. Like, I'm in a competition with Emmanuel Mosley and Ennis Rakestraw. Like, go. I could go clip it and send it to you if you want.
No one is arguing. It's already given.
So,
to him. What I'm
you're like,
arguing
you're like,
you
how come you
signed
guys
this
leave
guy
Meek out?
based on what he did the last 2 seasons. Very productive player. Played outside. Played inside. He's a competitor. He's a perfect fit to start in the slot. I will take him a week 1. Okay, you want 2 rookies in your secondary, Boone? Go ahead. I'll take
last year.
I'll take. And how'd that turn out? Check the numbers in the secondary. Check them.
Chiefs. How's Brian Branch work out? How did Brian Branch work out?
Oh, now you're singling it. Oh, I'm
just asking. How did Brian? Who cares about 2? Jeff, this is where you're wrong. No, real quick. This is where you're wrong. This is where you're wrong. You have the mindset of 2 rookies, or you have the mindset of well, you signed this guy, he has to play. Guess what?
No,
you're in Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes' organization. If you go out there and compete and outplay someone, you're playing football. I don't care if we signed you. I don't care if we signed you to a $20 million contract. If Ennis Rakestraw goes out there and outcompetes and beats you, he's going to go play. And I don't care about anything else. I don't care about how much money you make. I don't care if you're a rookie, a 3rd-year guy, a 6th-year guy. I do not care. And Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell's organization, whoever is the best player and whoever goes out there and competes and wins that job will play. Just because you signed signed him and he had good 2 years. That's not a PR. That's the truth. He's done that for the last 2 years.
Booner's absolute.
He's done that for 2 years. He starts guys like you're like, how is he starting? Because he's a dog.
That's not anything nobody already
knows.
Booner is absolutely right. That's why Brian Branch is taking snaps away from Tracy Walker and CJ Gardner-Johnson, who they just signed. But that's to the point. Okay, so you use that. You don't want 2 rookies on the field. Give me your argument against Emmanuel Mosley.
Emmanuel Mosley, I actually would be more.
So why were you? Oh my! Did Robertson just fall off a cliff? Did he just fall off a cliff?
No.
Mosley,
hold on.
The guy you signed.
Hold on. I agree. It's a competition. I'm not oblivious. We all do this for a living. We all are aware of that. It's a competition. I think Amik will come out on top. I think Emmanuel Mosley and Ennis Rakestraw could see the field, certainly. I just think Amik is someone that I want out there initially. Okay, that's my preference. Okay, so I disagree with you guys. You can have your opinion, but I'm going to go with Amik Robertson because I think people are forgetting that he is pretty good. And he's going to win that competition. You know what I mean?
That's trying to be like, you guys are crazy for having someone else outside of me. Like,
I got to stir shit up.
I get that, but you made it sound like we were taking like Carlton Davis off the field. And you're like, how are you doing that? Like, I didn't think that was that crazy.
No, I like Amik. I like Amik. I do. I've been consistent.
Very passionate about Amik. I think we found out, Booner.
I love that. Yeah, I like that. Put that in the back of my head. No, I know.
Well, that's you know what? For everyone still here, we're giving away how many tickets?
We've got, I believe 4. I believe 4. So 2 and 2. We'll give away.
Get the wheel ready.
Get the wheel ready. Put in the chat. I can if you can attend training camp tomorrow and you don't have tickets. We're going to give away some tickets. We're going to be able to give them out to people here. So put I can if you can attend. We're going to put your name in a wheel, spin it, and maybe you can win 2 tickets to go see the Lions tomorrow. So
and we'll be there too tomorrow. So
yeah, we'll be out there. So please, I can if you can attend. If you can attend.
Yeah, make sure you can. And we actually met one of the guys that we gave tickets away from last night. We were just walking and came up to us. Hey, I won the tickets last night. Great guy. Shout out.
Hey, see, I love that stuff. That's awesome. But yeah, please comment. I can. If you want, if we don't get the tickets tonight, we want to give the show the first look. We'll give them out on social media. But if you guys can comment, I can. And if not, we'll just give them out on our socials here. But we want to give
tomorrow too.
Mm-hmm.
Pads, baby.
Mm-hmm. You want to go see that. So
honestly, just at this point, outside of the wheel, the first 2 people that comment and say I want to go, I'll send Bradley, you're getting 2 tickets. Shoot me a message on Twitter at Booner Sports. Shoot me a message and I'll send you 2 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Now we just need one more person that wants the tickets.
Yeah.
And mailbag, drop some questions.
Yeah, and you gotta be able to go. Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to go.
Don't be reselling it.
Malik,
go blue. Shoot me a message on Twitter at Booner Sports, and we'll get you the tickets.
All right. Well, there you go. Shoot Booner a DM on Twitter. or you can message. If you don't have Twitter, then message at official CT Sports
on Instagram.
Message.
Drop a like in the stream while you're here too.
Yeah, everyone hit that like button. We should have like 150 plus likes right now. I don't know how.
Yeah,
many we're at.
we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Shout out to the Doc, man. I mean, the Doc coming on, talking some ball.
Awesome.
Tomorrow we'll be at training camp. Tune in tomorrow, and we'll break it all down. All right, all the pad stuff. We'll break it all down. We'll be there in attendance. So until tomorrow, we'll catch you guys. Stay safe out there. Stay blessed, and we'll catch you.
Peace. Love you guys.
See ya.